Good evening. This is the organizational school board meeting of November 19, 2019. It is my privilege as superintendent to chair the school board meeting until such time as a chairman is elected for the coming year. At this time, we will hold a moment of silent reflection and invite you to join us. Thank you. Mr. Matt Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to the organization of the board. First, we need to elect a chairman for this coming year, at which time the person elected will assume the responsibility as the chair. The board will then elect other officers and appoint individuals to committees where board representation is required or expected in various organizations across the county and in the state. Before we begin, I have asked Amy Envall, General Counsel, to explain this process.
Board members, we follow Robert's Rules of Order, and pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order for the election of the chairman of the board, the presiding official will be the superintendent who will call for nominations. Any board member who wishes to make a nomination will call out, first come, first serve. The first person who wishes to make a nomination, the first person to call out will be number one to make a nomination. I will assist the superintendent in determining who is the first nominator. The superintendent will then call for the nomination by that person and go down to the second and then the third. We'll go back to the first person and the first nomination and vote on that nominee. The nominee that gets the majority vote, 3 votes, will be the chairman. If that person is the first nominee, that will end the process. If the first nominee does not get 3 votes, then we will go to the second and so forth. The nominations do not need to be seconded under Robert's Rules of Order, and I would be happy to answer any questions or have any discussion before we get started. Ms. Belford?
Ms. Belford?
Sorry, I wasn't sure who was recognizing
Nope.
there. This meeting is always so confusing. So we have an interesting situation this year in that both our chair and our vice chair are up for re-election. And I just wanted to share some perspective and take it for what it is or ignore it completely. Having been through serving and running a re-election campaign, and not at the same time, but serving as board chair, I would not have said this prior to having done both, but I really feel like it is both an injustice to the school board member as well as to the district to try to juggle both of those things. So I know typically vice chair transfers into the chair position, and I know, Mr. Susan, you have been excited to do that. And I hate to, not trying to take that from you, but just speaking from experience, in my personal opinion, I don't think that it would be good for you during your campaign or good for the district for you to try to juggle it all. And with that, I will hush up and support the wishes of the board.
Back to you.
Any other questions? Comment? Ms. Envall will observe and inform me which board member makes the first nomination, as I may have trouble distinguishing simultaneous voices. The floor is now open to nominations for chairman.
I will. Ms. Campbell is first. Anyone else want to nominate?
I want to hear who she's going to nominate
Okay.
first.
Oh, I
nominate Ms. Belford.
So, Ms. Enval, now, if we want to nominate somebody else, also, we
Yes.
vote? Or
Somebody
we
else can
nominate
do a
and
nominate
then-
as well.
Are there any other nominators?
I hate this because I don't know what to do. We would have to vote Ms. Belford
First.
up or down before.
And this is very awkward for you all because you're not allowed to talk about any of this ahead of time. And so it does create a little bit of delay and hesitation and awkwardness.
So I feel like we should give, I don't know, I'm Ms. Belford. You were an amazing chair, and I would love to continue to support you to be chair again. On the flip side, I feel like we went through this with Mr. Craig. If anybody remembers 2 chairmanships ago, I felt like I needed to hear from everyone before I knew how to take action, and I feel like I'm in that same boat again. And since we can't do this privately, it all just has to be out here on the public forum. So, Mr. Susan, what I'm trying to say is I'd like to put your name forward, but we have to vote on Ms. Belford first before we would vote on you. And so I just need to know if you want me to put your name forward also.
It's entirely up to you. If you feel like you're going to support me for chair, then you should nominate me. If you think that you'll support Ms. Belford, then you don't nominate me and you vote for her. That's all.
Can
I
I?
mean, it's pretty simple.
And please know, I'm happy to serve if it is the wish of the board for me to serve. I feel no need to serve as chair. So if you feel like the right thing to do is to not support me and to support Mr. Susan, I am going to take no offense. My only concern, honestly, is having been through both of those situations, I would say it would be better to be anyone other than the 2 of you, just because of the situation that you're going to be in, because I know how difficult it is to juggle each of those roles separately, and to do them together, I think would be very difficult. But if you vote me down and someone else is nominated, I am not going to be upset with anyone, I promise you.
Okay, then. I would like to go ahead and add Mr. Susan's name to the nomination also.
Thank you, Ms. Deskovich.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominators? I'll entertain a motion then to close nominations.
So moved.
Second?
We'll vote to close the nominations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Pam, you got that?
I do.
Okay. All right. Ms. Enval, we now go in order of the nominations presented.
Yes, that's correct.
And the first nomination was by Ms. Campbell for Ms. Belford. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do we get to have a discussion before we vote on that?
You can actually have a discussion.
We
You don't
can-
need to make a motion, just have the discussion.
Just have the discussion. Superintendent, can I have the floor?
Ms. Deskovich.
Yeah, we are going to have to vote up or down on Ms. Belford, correct? So I'm going to support Mr. Susan because I feel like it's his choice if he can balance or not. And by saying that, he was okay with me bringing his name forward. But saying that, I have complete confidence that we call you mom of the board for a reason. You're level-headed, you research to the nth degree.
You
If
don't
it
have to
goes,
justify Ms. Deskovich,
okay,
I promise
just
you.
don't. This is not. That's my comments.
Anyone else for discussion or comments?
And just as a reminder, board members, you may vote for yourself.
I would like to.
Ms. McDougall.
Okay, this is the most awkward meeting ever. It's the least favorite meeting we've ever have. Because I respect everyone here on this board, and everyone does a fabulous job. What I look for is someone who is somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who's ethical, somebody who does research, somebody who listens and is there, and everyone here works really hard at that. So I just want to say that no matter how I vote, it is very difficult for me because I respect all of you here on this board.
Before I call for a vote, any other discussion or any other comments? First nomination for board chair is Ms. Belford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Pam looks like she has a question, Dr. Mullins.
3-2.
I didn't hear who the ayes for Ms. Belford.
Those in favor were Ms. Campbell, Ms. McDougall, and Ms. Belford.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Envol, I believe we have a new board chair.
You do.
All right.
Congratulations, Ms. Becker.
And now I will call a short recess to have technology reconfigured to accommodate the needs of the new chairman. Thank you, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
We have officially resumed. Welcome back. At this time, I'll open the floor to nominations for vice chairman. Ms. Envol, am I able to nominate?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else want to make a nomination for vice chairman? I will nominate then. Mr. Susan, if you would not be opposed, I would be honored if you would be the vice chair for
Thank you.
an additional year.
Thank you. I'd be honored to serve with you.
Thank you. Any additional nominations? Then we need a motion for nominations to be closed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All members of the board in support of Mr. Susan's nomination as vice chairman of the board, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr.
Thanks.
Susan.
I did just want to say you guys are lucky because I was wondering how I was going to get rid of the all of the stuff that I've done to the finish on this part of the board here, all of the veneer. So this, I'll keep it for another year. So thank you.
Jackie will appreciate that, I'm sure. And poor Jane Ann doesn't have to clean up too many spots. All right, the next item on the agenda is to designate the date, time, and place of regular and special monthly meetings with exceptions. Dr. Mullins. Do we want to pause to allow Ms. Deskovich to assume the role of past chair and Dr. Mullins to return to his?
Congrats. Thanks.
Dr. Mullins has to get logged in because it's his turn on the script.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Belford, is my recommendation for the board to adopt the dates, times, and places for these meetings as listed on the attached meeting date schedule.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Any discussion? Everybody logged in? Please vote. Next, we need to appoint board representatives to various committees for the upcoming year, as well as alternates. The current appointees and known dates and times are identified on our list. We have League of Cities. Matt Susan is the primary, with Katie Campbell being the alternate. Are we making any changes to League of Cities?
Katie, if you wanted to step up and take the League of Cities, I mean, I would serve. I just think that you get as much experience as possible if you would like it. They meet once a month.
Right.
Once a month on the
You'd
second
like to assign
Monday
me to things.
from 6:30 to 8:30.
No,
thought you were the alternate.
Yeah,
servers.
I know can I ask, I make a suggestion that maybe we kind of go, because some of these are good to keep the consistent people year after year, and some are good to kind of spread around. Can we, before we start going one-to-one, can I just ask, like, who has a job that they'd really like to stick with? Because I would hate for us to get through and realize we assigned a whole bunch of things to one person.
Sure.
I'd like to keep the AMI Kids, it's even on our list. It's a really great one.
I really want the Broward.
It's number 15, Ms. Deskovich.
It's not on the list on the agenda.
Oh,
It's on the,
it's on the script.
it's on the script.
Okay.
I would like to keep Brevard Foundation, School Foundation. I'd like to keep that one.
I'd really like to take the Brevard County Values Adjustment Board.
Yeah, especially when
I'm pumped.
really?
I am like, bring that thing on because I want it really bad.
I was going to tell
Be-
Katie that I would
McDougal, I will
switch with her,
scrap
but-
with you up here
they only
if you
meet
try to
twice a
take
year.
if I try to take the Values Adjustment Board from me, McDougal, I'll scrap with
It's
you.
only
up here.
twice a year if you go along to get along.
Why you
When
guys
I was on
complain
there,
about
We
it?
met like 6 times because I kept denying everything.
It
until we came
sounds
back.
like the coolest thing I think anybody could do.
All right, if you want it, I'll be your alternate.
Okay,
How's
there it
that?
is. We got number 2 taken care of.
I would love to try the League of Cities if you guys, Katie, you didn't sound.
It's up to-
I'm not interested in that one.
I think you'll like that a lot.
Are you ready to
Yeah.
share the wealth on that one?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Susan, do you want to remain alternate on League of Cities and allow Ms. Deskovich to be primary,
Right.
or,
Is that okay with you? Sure.
okay?
So,
3 and 4 are just kind of like, we're already elected to those. That doesn't change here, right?
Yeah, there's not much we
right,
can
the
do. on
FSBA,
ours.
because
those are
you're
done.
elected, appointed by FSBA.
3, 4, 5, and 6.
I am happy to continue to be their charter school liaison unless someone wanted to take that on. I like doing that one because I have most of the charter schools in my
Makes sense.
district. The capital outlay and the SIAC committee,
I did, I think somebody, the SiAC, I've been on it forever. There's nothing that comes up that I don't already know. I mean, I've been on it since 2012. So if somebody else wants to take it, and I can help anybody with any questions that they have.
I'd actually be
yeah.
interested in doing that.
The Capital Outlay Committee, I would ask if I could remain only because of the growth in my area, but if you wanted to tag team it, like to where I go to 1 or 2, you go to 1 or 2, I would be definitely, I just think that with the growth being in Vieira, I'd like to, at least if I can attend it. That was the only one that I was gonna hang on. It's up to you guys.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Who will be the alternate for SiAC?
Alternate for SiAC, Pam said.
Deskovich, she needs to do it.
I can.
No, Deskovich
Reeling
is.
back.
She doesn't want it.
Because Tina's is the most active, her member is the most active, so I thought that
That's true,
it would
it
be,
is. Dawn
it
is.
would be.
Oh, it would probably be good if I was the.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And if I could stay on the school health and safety one also, because that's just brand new.
Oh,
You can be my alternate.
I'm just kidding.
I know you can.
Okay, so before we move on, can you, Ms. Belford, would you review what we have so far?
I will do my best, Ms. Campbell.
8, Misty, hold on. Well, Ms. Belford, why don't you, want to give up Central Florida School Board Coalition?
And that's one that I should probably
Oh,
pick
chair
up
should
as
always-
chair.
should always,
Yeah.
yep.
So, Mr. Susan, you want to be my alternate on
That'd
that
be great.
as vice chair?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let me do my best to review what I have. Number 1, League of Cities, Tina Deskovich is going to be primary, and Matt Susan is going to be secondary. Number 2, Brevard County Values Adjustment Board, Matt Susan is going to be primary, and alternate is going to be,
Sorry.
McDougal is going to be alternate on Values Adjustment Board. FSBA Legislative Liaison, I will keep. Matt, you want to be alternate on that still?
Yeah, unless, I mean, I think Ms. Campbell is trying to take a more active role in FSBA, so if you would like to do that.
Again. No, I'm fine. SiAC
Is
is a
there-
lot to chew.
Is there something, I will be happy to share, Ms. Campbell, if there's something you
I can
want.
be the legislative liaison if you want.
To be to be the alternate, I'm happy to do that. For number 3.
You want to be alternate, or Mr. Susan, you want to be alternate?
I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. And let her be the alternate when we re-elect in the thing, it's gonna, right? Yeah, sounds good, just go with it.
Okay. FSBA Board of Directors, we have Mr. Susan still and myself as alternate. Anyone want to, or you're committed to that, Mr. Susan?
Yep.
Anyone else want to take alternate on that? Federal Relations Subcommittee and Advocacy Subcommittee, actually 3, 5, and 6 are all going to kind of get mishmashed because we have some bylaw changes that are coming at our December meeting, and so advocacy is actually going to be the primary committee, and federal relations and legislative are going to become alternates, so, or not alternates, but subcommittees. So, I don't know if anyone wants to, I mean, I'm happy to stay on those and keep things going, and if we decide we need to change it once FSBA settles out. And I don't think I have alternates for either of those, so. Number 7, Brevard Cultural Alliance, Cheryl McDougal, you wanted to keep that, is that what you said?
No, I want the school, Brevard Schools Foundation.
Oh,
But,
okay.
Katie, are you interested in this? You were the alternate last time.
No, not really.
Anybody else, or?
How often? I forgot. I've lost.
They meet once a month, and they meet at 8:30 in the morning, and it's the third Wednesday.
But they don't all, you don't, it's not compulsory attendance. You can
Yeah,
make
it isn't
every- you can
compulsory
make ev-
attendance,
You
yeah.
can make every other one, so you can only, you don't have to meet but maybe 5 times a year, and it's every other month. I was at 2 years ago, or else I would jump at it.
I was at 3 years ago.
So, no.
Tina,
I mean,
have you ever done it?
I mean, I can keep it if no one
Tina,
else
you were
wants
chair for a
it.
while, I mean, it was, you know.
So. All right, I guess I'm keeping it.
All right, Ms. McDougal is keeping BCA.
Yeah,
Central Florida Public School Boards Coalition, I'll be primary, and Mr. Susan is going to be backup alternate on that. Brevard Schools Foundation, Ms. McDougal, you wanted to keep that?
Yes, please.
And Ms. Deskovich, you are currently as alternate.
Yes, please.
Choice Charter School Liaison, continuing as Ms. Campbell. Capital Outlay Committee, Mr. Susan, you're staying on that? Is that what we decided?
Yeah, if Lindemann will have me. Where's Lindemann? Is that okay, Lindemann? We okay? All right, we're good.
Speak now or forever hold your peace, Mr. Lindeman. SIAC Committee, Ms. Campbell is taking on that one with who as an alternate?
Deskovich. She said she really wanted it.
Deskovich is alternate
And
on
then just out
that.
of point of clarification, if I was not able to make it to the Brevard County Values Adjustment Board, who is my alternate that I need to contact?
I'm pretty sure it was Ms. Deskovich.
Cheryl.
Okay.
No, it's Cheryl.
Okay. Just wanna make sure.
School Health and Safety, Ms. McDougal, you're keeping that one? Yes, please. Palm Bay Youth Advisory Board, Ms. Campbell, you are primary on that.
Yes.
And Ms. Deskovich, you are alternate on Palm Bay Youth Advisory Board?
I don't know anything about that.
That is the new board that started, well, it's been on around for a while, but having a school board representative is new this summer.
cool.
Okay. You're gonna
So,
let me know if you
yeah.
need me to show up.
yep.
Incredible.
They met last night. It was great.
And then AMI Kids, Ms. Deskovich, you are the only one on there? Do you need an alternate? Okay. Ms. Escobar, you have all of that? Okay. All right, that brings us to board authorization, but we do have a time certain of 6 PM, so I'm going to try really quickly to move through that. Dr. Mullins.
It is the requirement to authorize the superintendent to have signature facsimiles made of the chairman and the superintendent to be used for signing checks, and also to approve the continued use of the current signature facsimiles for district checks until new facsimiles are received. A motion and vote of the board is required for this issue.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Deskovich. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. All right. I am going to, we are supposed to be moving at this point into board recognition, but we have a 6 PM time certain leasing corporation. So I am going to hold our board recognition until after we convene the leasing corporation time certain meeting at 6 PM. So I am now recessing the regular school board meeting. And I am at 5:59. I'm just waiting on the clock to turn. Okay. It's the longest 1 minute ever. All right, the leasing corporation is now called to order. Dr. Mullins.
The item for the board to vote on is to elect the following officials to the Brevard County School Board Leasing Corporation: President, Chairman of the School Board, Vice President, Vice Chairman of the School Board, Secretary, Superintendent of the School Board of Brevard County, Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer of the School Board of Brevard County.
We are going to do a voice vote on this, so we don't have to log out of the main meeting agenda and log into the leasing corporation agenda. So what are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougal. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes 5-0. The leasing corporation time certain meeting is now adjourned. The school board meeting is back in session. All right, before we move further, I would like to offer my fellow board members the opportunity to recognize staff, students, or community members. Who would like to go first?
I think Cheryl said she wanted to go first, I heard.
Ms. McDougall, I think Mr. Susan volunteered you to go first.
So appreciate it. Well, first, I'll get this out of the way. So Mr. Susan and I had a bet against the Rockledge Cocoa game, and I am wearing the Rockledge shirt. They're both fabulous teams, and it was a very good game. But I want to give a shout out to Cocoa anyhow, because Cocoa is in the finals, and they won last week against Astronaut. I won't tell you the score. I also want to give a shout out for Kindness Day, which was the 13th of November, and I really want to thank Tropical Elementary and their kindergarten class for the cool signs that if you've noticed them out front, they designed them, and I really want to give a shout out to Ms. Wilcox and her kindergarten class for that. Also, I want to thank I always get your department name wrong. Where is Miss Archer? Miss Archer's department for the Parent Expo. That was fabulous. It was my first time there, and what an amazing display of all the different opportunities for our students in our district to visit the expo and see all the wonderful things we have available for them. I was lucky enough to attend Mila's Veterans Day musical, which was incredibly adorable. And on that same note, I want to give a shout out to Stevenson. They are amazing. They did this play called Nuts. And I hate to say this, well, I don't hate to say this, but the boys stole the show as squirrels. I don't know if they posted anything on their webpage, but it was absolutely adorable. I was playing some of the clips, and Dr. Mullen said, "Oh, are they singing that?" No, they were dancing to Michael Jackson. That was just wonderful. And another thing I want to talk about is I was lucky enough to be part of the parent leadership team meeting, and I want to thank all the parents that belong to that leadership meeting that join. They're volunteers. It's a fabulous organization, and I really appreciate Genevieve and Jenny who put it together. So thank you to them for doing that. And last is, I don't know if people know, but there is on January 11th at Vieira High School, it's the Walk or Run to Feed a Hungry Child. It is our End Childhood Hunger. So it's the Child Hunger Project. So that is if you are a runner or if you're a walker, please feel free to sign up. And it does support the children in our district who need some food, who are living below their means, and on the weekends they just don't have food in their home. I was lucky enough to give out 2 pins, one impact pin to, I'm going to embarrass her, I'm so sorry, to Dr. Thetty for all she's done and how hard she works. And also I gave one out to Deborah Foley in the communications department. So I gave her the bridge builder because it's amazing the bridges that she does build. So that's all I have at this point. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot one thing. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. Thank you so much, Ms. Enville. And I want to give a shout out to Major Walters because I understand that his mother really is watching today. So Major Walters, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Ms. Deskovich.
His mom watches a lot.
I know.
She must be, she a big fan of the school board, man.
For those that we do that as a joke every school
No,
board meeting for those.
Deskovich, no.
I mean, his mom is really watching. Just, I know everyone is like, why is that a shout out? So do we have a limit? Now that I'm not chair, I want to push the envelope.
I'm going to give you your unlimited envelope, Ms. Deskovich.
I won't keep us here too terribly long. I will divide up maybe and split some over the next meeting. First, we'll just do them as a group. The Veterans Day celebrations in my elementary beachside schools were awesome. We have so many servicemen, especially from Patrick, that live in that area, so they attend, and the kids with their parents. It's extremely special. So between Holland, Surfside, and Sea Park over a 2-day period, I sat through, and I could do those every day, all day. The music programs are exceptional. The recognition of our servicemen and women, they were fantastic. Wanted to give a shout out to Okay, so we have a new pin this year. It's the Impact Pin. I think is that what you awarded to Dr. Thuddy? I emailed a few of my principals before I did school visits and asked for them to nominate someone at their school that really has made an impact on their school community. And ironically, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, 4 of 6, were all math teachers. Isn't that interesting?
Nice.
That the principal nominated one in each school. Two was in one school, and then one was in one per school in the other schools, but all math teachers. And so I just want to give them each a shout out and then in the description that the principals would send. So it's just listen, you'll understand what I'm getting at. So Miss Leah Donaldson at Holland Elementary School. She's a 6th grade math teacher. We, Dr. Mullins and I were visiting, and we awarded her the Impact Pin. She teaches, again, 6th grade. 52% of her class scored a level 5 on the math FSA.
Wow.
90% of her students had learning gains and were proficient, so a level 3 or above.
Nice.
It's phenomenal. Her counterpart in 5th grade at the same school, 80% proficiency and 80% of her class had learning gains. And that woman, Miss Tanya Johnson, do you remember her, Dr. Mullins? We actually went to Holland on Halloween, and they were having Mad Scientist Day. And so everyone, including us, when you enter the school, you have to put on a lab coat and crazy hair. And we walk into her classroom, and she had googly eyes, and she was just full of energy. And the principal there just went on and on about how contagious her energy is and how she gets the students really excited to love math. And it sets them up for Miss Donaldson's class in 6th grade, where they are really on a path to do well in math. So that was 2 of the math teachers. Then, interestingly enough, the same day we went right over in the parking lot to Delora, the middle school, and the teacher that was recommended there for the Impact Pin was Lisa Rickett, who's also their math teacher. So these math teachers are moving and shaking within our district. And he talked about the relationships that she's building with her students. I see some like this in the back. The relationships that she's building and how she just goes over and above. Before school, after school, during lunch, she's tutoring, hands-on with kids, helping them, encouraging them, and getting them to really love math. And then we scooted on over to Satellite High, and Mr. Pruitt nominated a math teacher also, Mr. Simpkins, and just the nicest, most humble man who has a 99% pass rate on the geometry EOC last year. I mean, that is remarkable. He did not want any recognition. He was blushing. He wanted it over as quick as possible. He just wants to be there to do his job. And what Mr. Pruitt also said about him is, he loves the kids and he supports them, not just in math and in the classroom, but he shows up at all their sporting events. He's at after-school activities just to be there and to be part of their other life. And I wanted to give all of them recognition. And then last but not least, Port Malabar Elementary School did a school safety night, which was Major Walters was there, and Kirk Gwininger and some of the other officers. But it was a really great community event. I loved that the school put it on. They had a great turnout, a lot of parents and families there to learn about internet safety and some of the new school projects. And so great job to their staff for putting that together. Thank you, Ms. Belford.
Thank you, Ms. Duskovich. Mr. Susan.
I did want to first say it's just coincidental that I think these principals are actually nominating math teachers since our superintendent's math, and you may be leveraging that. I do want to tell you that there are some great social studies teachers inside this district that we should be nominating, so I will be trying to do that in January. First thing I wanted to say is, Ms. McDougall, you never cease to amaze me. Thank you for taking the challenge, and you're 100% right. Cocoa High is in the playoffs, and I think we need to rally behind them, being the only school in the entire county. And not many people know this, but out of all the Central Florida counties, we lead the state in number of school state championships for football. That's pretty big when you're talking about Orange and Pinellas and everybody else over there. So, and a lot of that is because Cocoa keeps winning. And it's unfair sometimes because Rockledge is a 4A and Cocoa's a 2A to compare the two in the battle, but Cocoa flip-flops with them all the time. But thank you for taking the challenge, and I'm sure I'll be wearing Cocoa Orange next year, right? But I did want to say thank you to that. And also I wanted to tell you that the Kindness Club, my daughter is officially allowed this year to be a part of the Kindness Club, right? So we were talking about this last year, and we got one of the signs. So I live in an area, you're not allowed to put signs up. So I wanted so bad to get a letter for my kindness sign, right? From the HOA people who are, you know, the stormtroopers in the neighborhood. So what ended up happening is they didn't give me a letter, so I kept moving it closer and closer to the road, and then I got it almost into the road, and they still didn't give me a letter. So we must have kindness people inside that building. So I just wanted to say thank you for the signs. My daughter's really happy that you're promoting a lot of this stuff, and thank you. I did want to give a shout out to Mr. Theodore Stedman, okay? He works with our energy services, and today I wanted to tell you guys how cool it is that we have so much solar in our district. And I never knew. So because what I tried to do is I said, hey, we've got some teachers that want to do this, hook up their battery-operated cars, right? So I send Suhan. Suhan says, oh, great, here comes another email from Matt Susan. What do I do with it? And then she grabs it, and they said, look, these are all the areas we already have solar. And guess what? Edgewood already has a solar hookup so that you can hook up at Edgewood if you have a solar car. But I did want to just read some of these real quick. Apollo Elementary, Bayside High School, Central Middle, Cocoa High, Edgewood, Endeavor, ESF. Hang on, I screwed up. I just jumped the email here. ESF, Gulfview, Jefferson Middle, Johnson Middle, Lockmar Elementary, McNair Middle, Satellite High, Stone Middle, West Shore Junior, Senior High, all have solar. Cool. I didn't know that, right? And then I also was looking at the CAFR today, or yesterday, and it's on the agenda for tonight. We are actually $1.5 million less in energy services that we pay than in 2010. So we actually produce 15,000 kilowatt hours per month of solar electricity inside of our county, which is pretty phenomenal. So I just wanted to kind of say that's a pretty cool thing. And then the last thing is that I got on Saturday, I got to go up to Daytona State College and review their trades program. So unlike here, they have in Eastern Florida State doesn't have it, but they actually have the trades in the college training all the kids, and all of the kids, the people, men too, that go to school up in Daytona State College, which is right next to the raceway, they all work and live in Brevard. So they work out at the Space Center, right? So then they drive up there and they get, so that you know, the trades to become an apprentice is you have to work for 5 days, and then on Saturday, you go to school from 7:30 in the morning until 3:30, 5 o'clock in the evening, and you do that for 4 years, about 8 months out of the year, and you get your 4-year journeyman, which is pretty significant out there, right? So what I did was I said, hey, this is great. We don't want to make bricks and mortar back where we are, but we would love you to come work with us and give our kids the opportunity to be a part of these schools. So he's setting up a meeting and coming down to talk to Dr. Mullins about sponsoring all of our construction schools. So that would be amazing if those companies and those people are coming in, because again, it's zero cost to all those kids, and they can get a 4-year journeyman's license and be making some significant money. And they actually let me hold the blowtorch, and I was welding stuff up there. So it was really cool. So anyways, I wanted to say thank you, and then I'll wait for Ms. Majeskovic versus Schwab after we start introducing them. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. Ms. Campbell.
So on Halloween here in the boardroom, the, what do you call the office? Mr. Langdorf's office.
Risk Management.
Risk Management Office
Risk management
hosted.
and benefits.
Hosted the Health and Benefits Fair, and it was a lot of fun. They had chair massages across the front of the room. Oh yeah, you missed it. They had smoothies given away over here. Everybody had candy, and so that was the side benefits of it. But it was really exciting. I made it round to almost every table and I went up to every table and said, look, I'm on the board. I want to know, what are you offering for our employees? And was really excited to see so many benefits that are free to our employees. And my biggest concern with that is I wonder if everybody's really taking advantage of that. So I just want to encourage people, if you weren't there, you didn't get to pick up the information, to please contact, look through your benefits, the full benefits thing, and look at all the things that are available, because there is a lot of them. Do you know that we offer free coaching through our Marathon Health Clinics? For example, if you have diabetes, they have classes and individual coaching that's just one health issue that you can get coaching for, but there's weight loss coaching, there's all kinds of things, and those things are available free to our employees. So please, employees, take advantage of those opportunities. But it was a great fair and really exciting to see what all is available, plus the chair massage was nice. Dr. Mullins and I have been on 8 school visits in the last 2 weeks, and we got to see a lot of really great teaching and learning going on. But I wanted to just highlight one that stood out, I know, to me, and I think to Dr. Mullins as well, and that was when we went to Central Middle School and got to meet with their AVID students. AVID is only 2 years old at Central, or actually it's in the second year, and the students came in and were just so thoughtful with their questions, and they've been taught this note-taking skill in their AVID class, and even as they were just meeting with us and talking about issues with the school and solutions, they were taking notes all throughout the meeting. It was just so very thoughtful. It made their questions more thoughtful, their suggestions more thoughtful, and they really showed their care for their fellow students and for the culture of their campus. Just also on Central, on November the 8th, they had their, I don't remember what year they're in now, but their annual Stomp Out Bullying Walk, where they walk from the West Melbourne Police Department down Minton and then down Wingate to the school. And just really, there was, the mayor was there and the chief of police, and just really encouraged the students, remind them of the mantra we have, if you see something, say something. And I got a chance to just encourage them to create a culture in their school, you know, putting bullies on notice. We're not going to have that kind of culture here. We're going to be kind. And then West Melbourne School for Science also did a fabulous Veterans Day program, and we had at least 30 veterans and first responders in the audience, and it was so exciting. Everybody was crying, and in a good way. It was a great moment, and I'm so excited that our district does that across the district, these great Veterans Day programs, and to recognize true heroes that are among us. And so that is it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Dr. Mullins.
Thank you. I want to just give a quick acknowledgement to two groups of folks that I mentioned to the board a couple, probably 3 or 4 meetings ago, that I would be meeting with Teachers of the Year finalists for the last 2 years and Employee of the Year finalists. And I had the inaugural meeting with both of those groups, Teachers of the Year on October 30th and Employees of the Year actually just last evening. And you know, to no surprise, the conversation was stimulating. It was candid. It was honest. It was open. It was just great dialogue across the table, and good feedback that I have already begun to share with Cabinet as we prioritize moving forward. So I want to just let you know those conversations are going great, and thank our and let our employees know across the district that those finalists are representing you well in those conversations. And please reach out to them if they're in your school or in your workplace, and share some of the things that you want them to bring to the table, and because they've committed to continue the conversation. So we're meeting about every other month moving forward. So that's going to be great. And at the same time I shared that the Cabinet and I and board has jumped in. We'll be subbing in our schools on Monday, November 25th. That's Monday. So we're excited to be in our schools and serving students in the capacity as substitutes and helping our schools out along the way. On November 5th, a week and a half ago, I had the real privilege of being a part of or attending the Florida Today Volunteer Recognition Awards, and it was extra special because one of our own was being recognized as a finalist. Tamara Carroll, school counselor at Heritage High School, was not, yeah. She was nominated by her peers for the Volunteer Recognition Award and was a finalist at the event. She is passionate, not just in her school, in supporting students and her role as a guidance counselor, but she is a longtime Keep Brevard Beautiful and Adopt a Road volunteer, and her husband have also really championed Save the Manatee Club starting in 2015. So very proud that Brevard representative, not only a champion inside our schools, but out in our community as well with Tamara and her husband. And then also Ginny Gleason, who I know you know, our parent and family, well, let me tell you what's happening first. Our parent, family, and community engagement resource teacher will be recognized on December 5th as a finalist for the Stars of the Space Coast Superstar Employee Award. Nice. This award recognizes employees who have had a significant impact on a nonprofit employer and the people it serves. And if you know Ginny, you understand how much she selflessly gives to the district, our students, as well as our community. And she is by far one of the most deserving individuals of this designation. So congratulations to Ginny and Tamara for your great work in our community. So let's give them both a round of applause.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. We would like to take a moment to say thank you to a couple of people. First, a huge thank you to our outgoing board chairman, Ms. Tina Deskovich. Yes, absolutely. Your leadership has been absolutely invaluable to our board. Thank you for your committed support for the students, the staff, and the community that comprise Brevard Public Schools. You did a phenomenal job during your tenure, and your peers would like to award you with this certificate to say thank you for your service and commitment. We know it's not an easy job, and you had a tumultuous year in which to serve, so we appreciate all that you did.
Thank you, Ms. Belford. I don't know that we've done this before. I don't think we gave you one last year. I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right.
I don't know who thought to do this of you all, but thank you. I appreciate it. It was an honor to serve. I'm not sure which one. I think it was Ms. McDougall just said everyone on the board is remarkable. We watched some of the board meetings from other counties and so contentious. Some of them aren't even remotely, don't even try to be nice to each other. And I don't know how you serve students in your community in that environment. So I'm just grateful to have you all. And I look forward to it. We've served under you before and you're a great chair. So I'm sure you'll do another great job.
Thank you. I actually have to give Mr. Susan credit for starting the tradition of the board chair recognition. He is the one that reached out to us and said, hey, can we do something? So we need to give him kudos for that. And if any of the other board members would like to say anything to Ms. Deskovich before I move to my other recognition, you're welcome to do so.
I would really like to say that you're just so much nicer now that you're chair, because you used to yell at me for taking too many speaking turns, and you always laugh. This is a very nice transition.
Is she a nicer chair? Because
Yes,
she
so far,
said we
so
could
far.
have.
She hasn't, she hasn't been around for a little while, but, with me next to her. But I did want to say thank you for everything that you did. That was amazing. You went through a lot, and I think you deserve all of that and more. And anything, you did a great job, so thank you.
Most welcome. I don't get to boss you around anymore, though, which
Yeah, you do.
is.
You
just
still
do it
do.
anyway. Everybody does, all four of you.
Thank you, Ms. Deskovich, for continuing to be a heart on our board. We have some people who are a lot more of a softie than you would realize from what we present here, and thank you for continuing to remind us what we're all about.
Thanks, Ms. Campbell. She can't whisper stuff. No, you're fine.
She can whisper stuff in that
It's
instance.
fine.
What I said is I don't want to make her cry, and I so appreciate her service. It was a tough year, and that was my first year on the board, and 1 year down. So thank you.
While we are certainly privileged to have Ms. Deskovich continue to serve alongside us, this will be one of our colleagues' last board meetings. We cannot let her leave without publicly thanking her for her service and the positive impact she's had on our district. General Counsel Enval, we will miss you, and we have a little parting gift for you.
I think we should get a picture. Maybe
This is so sad.
Hold on. Before you say something, I think we should say something and say something about making an impact. Okay.
Absolutely. So what I have presented Ms. Enval with is our impact card from our new impact pen that Ms. Deskovich referenced earlier, with messages from the cabinet members and board members, along with her very own impact pin to take with her. For those of you who have not heard, Ms. Enval is going to be moving over to Orange County Public Schools as their general counsel. And so we congratulate her for her promotion. We will miss her dearly, but we have to be happy for her, despite the fact that we're kind of not happy for her. But we are very proud of you and appreciate all that you have done for Brevard. And at this point, I will open it up for other board members who would like to say a few words, or Dr. Mullins. I didn't mean to shut you out down there, for a few words to Ms. Enval.
I'll go first, Ms. Enval. It was an honor to serve with you. I always said it earlier in our little mini party we had to say goodbye to you, but You had a big task coming to this district, and I depended on you a ton as school board chair, and I appreciate being able to call you any time of the day or night. You always were cheerful and willing to help and had great advice, and we will always be grateful. You helped set up the legal department here for Brevard Public Schools, so thank you.
I'll go next. Ms. Enval, I'm so going to miss you. It's been so nice to have sitting next to you. I second what Tina says about being available. Your long drive home, and we would talk for hours, and I could call you anytime, and I so appreciate that. I am so going to miss you, and I do wish you the best of luck, but you can change your mind.
I'll jump in there next. I'm so glad that they gave you the impact pen because I actually had it on my to-do list of, giving impact pens, Amy. So, but then they beat me to it. So I can't think of a person in this district who, I can think of a few, but there's not very many people who have had as broad of an impact as you have. Part of it just because of your job, as making policies and guiding the board members. You've had an impact on all 74,000 students and all 9,000 employees and our community. And so that is very apropos for you to receive that from us, and so excited to see what happens for you in the future. I'm glad we still have your cell phone number, but I am thankful for the way you have touched every school and every department and been so willing to have that impact and help us look through all the layers of each situation. So thank you for all your help.
Well, I'll chime in, and Ms. Enval, I think I can speak on behalf of Cabinet that your accessibility and your responsiveness and your positivity has just been a tremendous asset to the organization, to the Cabinet as a whole, and appreciate your accessibility to me as well. We called it windshield time. We would catch up on the drives home and keep in touch, and I appreciate your willingness to do that. But most of all, I appreciate you making us better as an organization, and that will live on as we move forward and you go on to great things in Orange County, and we'll continue to stay in touch.
You are going to be here next Tuesday, right? So you're not like leaving.
I'm going to be here next Tuesday, yes.
Okay. I did want to say thank you for everything that you've done. We had a situation before where a lot of our policies were in disrepair, and appreciate everything you do. I'm looking forward to a couple of months where we don't have that happening, where there's like 6 or 7 every workshop and every meeting and everything else. So thank you for that. And I do think that you've turned it around and you have done some amazing things. I think both staff and everybody else, as far as the collaborative efforts that were needed for a lot of these principals and upper level staff to be able to pick up the phone and call, and you've always been open to them, and you've always done an amazing job for them and answered their questions. And I think that was arguably the policies and that were 2 of the biggest lacking things in our district at the time, and you filled them in and did amazing. So thank you for that. And you take Juanita, and we're fighting, okay? Just letting you know. All right.
Well, it's been my distinct pleasure, honored. It was very exciting to start this office. I think I've done a good job, and I hope the next person takes it to that next level and does a better job than I did. The staff, cabinet, all of you all, it's family oriented. It's just a really good. There's good people here, and you do good work. So I'm honored. Thank you so much for the kind words.
Thank you, Ms. Enval. All right, that brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Mullins.
Chairman and members of the board, on the published agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 30 consent items, 10 action items, and 3 informational items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. There was a revision to item A12 on administrative staff recommendations. Under the consent agenda, there was a revision to item F15 on student expulsions and item F38 on Vieira High School design build contract and pre-construction services. Under action, there was a revision to G48 on department school initiated agreements. Legacy Charter Academy, proposed 90-day termination of the charter contract was moved from consent to action.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Deskovich, seconded by Mr. Susan. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins, will you please tell us about the administrative staff recommendations on tonight's agenda?
Yes, there are 5 administrative staff personnel for you to consider this evening.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Deskovich. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize our appointees present this evening. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Adrienne Schwab and congratulate her on her transfer from the position of principal at Meadow Lane Intermediate to the position of principal at the South Vieira Elementary School, yet to be named. But congratulations, Ms. Schwab.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins and board, for this opportunity and honor to serve as the principal of the new South Vieira Elementary School. Thank you also to Mrs. Klein and the elementary leading and learning directors for their belief in me and continuous support. Thank you also to my family and friends for your support and understanding. My husband Mike is here with me tonight. Thank you for always encouraging me to reach for the stars and being my cheerleader and stronghold. To the faculty, staff, students, and community at Meadow Lane Intermediate, thank you for allowing me to serve as your principal for the last 4.5 years. You will always hold a place in my heart, and I know that you will continue to do amazing things for students. I am excited and feel blessed to be able to build relationships with all stakeholders for the new South Vieira Elementary School in order to continue to serve students with the standard of excellence in Brevard County. Thank you.
And we'll continue by recognizing Miss Sarah Barnett as she moves from assistant principal at Meadow Lane Primary to the interim principal at Meadow Lane Intermediate. Congratulations, Miss Barnett.
Thank you. I'm truly honored to have the opportunity to be the interim principal at Meadow Lane Intermediate, and I thank you, Dr. Mullins, and the entire school board for giving this opportunity to me. I also want to thank Mrs. Klein and Mrs. Sylvester for their leadership and their belief in me and their support, and for Mrs. Schwab for your confidence in me as I move into this new role. And I also want to thank my family. Tonight I have my mom, my sister, my beautiful daughter, and my husband here with me. They love me and support me and volunteer with me at school all the time. Thank you. And I want to say a true heartfelt thank you to Mrs. Susie Schroeder, the principal at Meadow Lane Primary. I've had the true privilege to work with her for the last 5 years, and she models for me daily what it looks like to collaborate as a team, what it means to care about people and put people first, and how to be a true servant leader. And I thank you, and I am thankful that I know I have your mentorship as I move into this new role. And with that, I look forward to serving the Meadow Lane Intermediate students, staff, and teachers, and I'm excited for the opportunity to serve the West Melbourne community in this new capacity, and I'm thankful. Thank you, Dr. Mullins and the board.
There may be people keeping track and make sure you see which parking lot you pull into. Habit may take you to primary, and you'll start to walk in. You're pausing. Wait a minute, I'm at the wrong parking lot. Those who don't know, primary is literally right next door to intermediate. So, but last, certainly not least, we want to wish Miss Sylvia Majuskovic all the best in her retirement from the position of principal at Space Coast Junior Senior High School. Congratulations, Sylvia. We will miss you. I'm still a little upset with you for making this. I'm one of the few people who know how to pronounce your last name. And you're going to leave me. Congratulations, Sylvia.
Good evening, Dr. Mullins, members of the board, Ms. Belford. Special thank you to you for your unwavering support during my time at Space Coast. We have an old saying in education, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to help a leader make a difference. And my village starts with my family, who's here with me tonight. My husband, Mark, who's a retired educator from Brevard County Public Schools as well, although they keep dragging him back in. He teaches part-time. My mother-in-law, Catherine, who is here with me tonight, and my daughter and her boyfriend, who surprised me and showed up from St. Augustine this afternoon to be here with me. And of course, my other daughter, Jasmine, that's here with me in spirit. Many of you do not know my story. I left Miami 13 years ago after 21 years of loyal service to that organization. And I left very disheartened at an education system that I felt was broken. But having 20 years, I felt I couldn't leave the passion that I had. And I found a new home in Brevard County. And the friendships and the passion, the commitment that this organization has to education has been nothing but amazing. So a huge thank you to Dr. Sullivan, Mr. Novelli, Ms. Bowman, all the leading and learning directors, even back to Ms. Klein, who started this whole craziness with me becoming a principal. A huge thank you to them, to my family at Space Coast. I wanted to make sure that Space Coast made a mark on it on the map, and we've got some great work there, and I know that it will continue. And finally, to the staff at Space Coast, and of course, I can't say goodbye without saying a huge thank you to my colleagues and my friends and my principals who were like a family to me. So to all of you, thank you. It's been a great journey. It's a bittersweet goodbye. I hope that I've served you well, Dr. Mullins, and it's okay. I still love you. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Susan, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Schwab for coming into the district here. You're going to be amazing. I've not heard one single negative thing, only the largest praise I've ever heard from anybody becoming a principal, honestly, that I've had inside of the district here in Viera. And I did want to let you know that I am all about competition, and there's this charter school that's coming in right above us. And I did want to I looked up the road that might be like the cross, like the showdown at the OK Corral Road, you know what I mean? And it's actually called Spur Road. So it's in between the two schools. So I'm so looking forward to this competition and you doing an amazing job. And Ms. Majeskovic, after all the years in education and all the friends and everything else, Peter Royo and everybody else that we've been through, Mr. Majeskovic, really appreciate what you guys have done for our education system and what you've done for the kids inside this community. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. So thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Susan, and I will second the sentiment. I'm a little bit mad at you, I have to admit. I feel like, just a little bit deserted or something like that, but we appreciate your many years of service and the heart that you brought to Space Coast. And we wish you well going forward, even though Mr. Susan's already starting to stir up trouble. But we thank you very much, and we wish you well in the rest of your journey. Okay, we are now at public comments. Though School Board Policy 0169.1 limits to 30 minutes the portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to participate and provide public comment, the policy further provides that this time limit may be extended by a vote of the board. We actually only have 3 speakers signed up to speak this evening, so there's no need to lengthen it. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of your time. When your time is over, you will be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected at all times, and your statement should be directed to the board chairman. The chairman may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when time is up, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Should an individual not observe proper etiquette, the chairman may request the individual leave the meeting. Let's all encourage an environment appropriate for our children who may be present or are watching from home. Let's begin with our first 3 speakers. Mr. Anthony Colucci, Andre Barrio and Melinda Villan. No, the notepad. Somehow I Thank you. Is that yours?
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. First of all, I want to say, Mr. Susan, on behalf of our 5,000 teachers, I want to say that we're sorry you were denied the opportunity to become board chair. All of us in the audience saw this as a political grab under the guise of being helpful. What should have been done, if this was sincere, was a motion should have been made and concerns were expressed during discussion. Mr. Susan was right when he supported the magistrate decision. This has never been acknowledged by this board, even after the money was found, and even after it came to light that the raises cost $300,000, not $6 million. Mr. Susan led the effort on the EKGs for students, the biggest accomplishment this board has had in a long time. Last time Ms. Belford was chair, relations between the board and teachers fell apart, with teachers feeling that their concerns were being ignored, and Ms. Belford consistently siding with staff and administration rather than teachers. I hope this year won't look like 2 years ago. Our state legislature has failed to properly fund public education for the past 2 decades. Our state, which has the 17th largest economy in the world, ranks 43rd in the nation in per student funding and 46th in the nation in average teacher salary. Yesterday, Governor DeSantis released an education budget that can only be described as status quo and tone deaf. His plan keeps Florida in the bottom 10 in state funding. Governor DeSantis is advocating for a new bonus plan despite the evidence that the past 6 plans have not worked as advertised. If they did, we would not have thousands of instructional vacancies and approximately 300,000 students without a full-time permanent teacher. He's advocating for a new bonus plan, despite the fact that educators can't count on a bonus when applying for a home loan or qualifying for a car loan. Governor DeSantis is advocating for a bonus plan, although teachers can't budget their family's finances, not knowing if that budget will be there, if that bonus will be there next year. Despite the fact that bonuses can't be counted on for retirement, he continues to call for them. His proposed budget only increases the BSA, the part this board has control over, by $50, which is $25 less than last year. While he's calling for a minimum salary of $47,500, that is a proposal surely to create more problems than it solves. In Brevard, a teacher has completed 16 years and has been highly effective all along, is only making $47,754. So after nearly 2 decades in the classroom, this teacher will only make $254 more than a brand new teacher. This is absolutely absurd. If this plan goes through, the exodus of teachers will continue and our students will be hurt. On January 13th, 50,000 teachers and community members will participate in the largest rally in Florida history to demand that the legislature fund our future. We know that only direct action will change the direction of public education in Florida. We're asking for this board's support in this endeavor. Those of us involved in public education can no longer continue to do business as usual. Our students and teachers need this board to fight alongside us this year.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Your time is up. Mr. Barrio?
Hello, my name is Andre Barrio. My wife and I have 4 children that are currently attending the Legacy Charter School. And I had the opportunity to read the recent audit report that was released. And I do have some concerns I'd like to just voice to this board. One, to summarize the report, it seems like you walk away thinking that it's a failing school and it's in financial distress. But as I read the report, the way it was prepared, it almost seems like the conclusion was drawn before the report was even prepared, and there doesn't seem to be any objective analysis. There seems to be some gaps and some missing information. And so I just wanted to point out two items that kind of drew my attention. In particular, there is an observation in referencing a promissory note being past due, and it states, "We noted that the school received a loan from Legacy Funding Services, a company based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We were unable to determine if this lender is related to the party or to the school." I'm not sure I understand the relevance of this particular comment to the statute that it's referencing or the observation, but what concerns me more is that as I read it, it almost seems like it's trying to get the reader to make the assumption that there's an improper relationship between the lender and the school. And what's worse is that there's no supporting evidence, there's no facts that are supported with this comment. So I'm not sure what the intent is there, but I would suggest that someone should investigate that a little bit further. My understanding is that it was just a simple coincidence that the word legacy is in both names. Another item that came to my attention that was of concern to me was that my understanding is that in the rules of the Auditor General of the state of Florida, it's required that audit reports include the viewpoints of the officials of the legacy school in these reports, right? It's important that it balances the report and provides hopefully some rebuttal or some viewpoints of those officials to help understand what the situation is. But yet, as I read the report, it doesn't seem like the views, all of the views, especially the most important views, are included in this report based on the conversations I've had with the school officials. Now, to me, that seems like the audit report's incomplete and doesn't comply with those rules set by the Auditor General. Again, I'm not sure what the intent is, but I do question the validity of this report. It seems to be riddled with inaccuracies. And it's my recommendation that the school board, please, I recommend that you provide or complete some kind of investigation to determine the root cause of why there's so many inaccuracies, and hopefully to come up with a corrective action that can help prevent the risk and lower the risk of something like this happening in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Melinda Villan, parent of a second grader at Legacy. While I could brag all day long about my child, how she has a 6th grade reading level, how she's playing the Ghost of Christmas Present in our school play, how she's been on the honor roll, I'm actually not here to do that. You see, I'm also the head library aide, co-teach the after-school theater program, and I'm the PTO secretary. I volunteer at the school over 15 hours a week. I see all the kids, and instead would like to talk about them. Our school library opened this year. The books almost completely donated from our community. I have seen kids disinterested in reading become my most frequent visitors. I've seen kids overjoyed to have a new book to read, or as one student says every single time they come in, "Find something I haven't read before," and is ecstatic when I comply. I started a legacy wall of extraordinary people, which not only teaches history, but shows what they too can achieve if they just put their minds to it. The kids are excited to read, to learn, and we know that books and learning go hand in hand, that old adage that knowledge is power. Our theater program began last year. Education in the arts helps promote real-life lessons, confidence, public speaking, quick thinking, working together. There's nothing like seeing a child square their shoulders, not care what others think, transform into character, and present magic on stage. We have a healthy theater community here in Brevard, and these students are the ones who will be the next generation of local talent. Some students have already auditioned in our local community theaters because of the love of the theater program at Legacy. We have other after-school clubs, as well as a Girl Scout troop that my daughter is a part of. They are positive after-school activities that spark kids' interest and help grow their passions. In fact, I invite you to come and see our winter play, written by one of our teachers, and see how much our after-school programs impact kids for the better. My daughter's been with Legacy since the school opened. Proper education is very important to us, and we would not have had her return to the school over these years unless those educational needs were being met. Her kindergarten teacher introduced her to her favorite author, Mo Willems. She had the same teacher for this year and last year, and that teacher blossomed in her love for civil and equal rights, and my child found a love for Black history. From art to PE to Project Lead the Way, her teachers have helped her be the best that she can be. I appreciate their care and knowledge and patience. Every teacher there cares about their students and wants them to succeed. In talking to a student one day, they told me, "I love it here. I don't know why parents wouldn't want to send their kids here." And that's what it comes down to, the kids. Kids who love the school, kids who want to be there, kids who want to learn, who would be devastated if their world was turned upside down by their school closing. I ask that you let us prove that our legacy lions can roar, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, would any board members like to respond to any of the comments from speakers this evening?
I would just encourage Mr. Barrio to hope you'll stick around because I think some of the questions that you asked will be answered when RSM has opportunity to do their presentation. So I hope you'll stay.
Ms. Belford, if I may, and just because the question was raised, I want to assure the listening audience that RSM is a third-party contracted auditor that reports directly to the audit committee, and the audit of the school was run through the audit committee, so that was, they don't report to me or staff. They do a very objective audit, meeting the rules and principles of all auditing requirements, and then that report is presented to the board, and presented to staff, and then of course it was shared with Legacy. So I just wanted to provide that perspective in anticipation of RSM making a presentation later.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins and Ms. Campbell. The board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated. That moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Mullins?
This evening, there are 30 agenda items under this category.
Does any board member wish to pull any items?
I just wanted to discuss H55, but not on action. It's an information, just so you know.
Okay. If there are no items to be pulled, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Deskovich, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Miss Joanne Clark. I have a feeling she's working harder than we know, being and leading a team back there, probably doing more than her original job called for. So just one of the items in here is, we've got a lot of financial stuff that's been happening, and we are down one CFO these days. So I just wanted to, I should have done a shout out at the beginning when we were doing shout outs, but.
All right. Any additional discussion on approval of the consent agenda? All right, please vote. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the action agenda. Dr. Mullins.
There are 10 action items on tonight's agenda. The first is to hear public comments on Board Policy 6320, followed by board action.
Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to address the revisions to Board Policy 6320, purchasing? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to address the revisions to Board Policy 6320, purchasing? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Mr. Susan. Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hear comments on the repeal of Board Policy 6330, 6423, 6460, and 6540, followed by board action.
Is there anyone present who has come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6330, acquisition of professional architectural, engineering, landscape architectural, or land surveying services? Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6330, acquisition of professional architectural, engineering, landscape architectural, or land surveying services? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Please vote. You trying to play some music over there, Ms. Deskovich?
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
I'm out of control over here. I was actually just saying I don't miss having to read all those twice.
Oh, yeah. Did everybody vote?
Did I vote? Did I vote? I think. Oh, maybe I didn't submit it. There we go. It's not clicking.
Come on, Ms. McDougal.
It won't let me.
Okay,
Well,
motion
let me
passes
submit it.
5-0. Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6423, use of purchasing cards? Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6423, use of purchasing cards? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougal. Any discussion? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6460, vendor relations? Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6460, vendor relations? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6540, consultant agreement? Is there anyone present who's come to address the repeal of Board Policy 6540, consultant agreement? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
God bless you, Ms. Duskovich. Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by, what was it, Ms. McDougal? Yeah. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins,
Next is department school-initiated agreements.
what are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yeah, I voted. Did I not vote again?
Did somebody not vote?
Not here.
Took
so
it away from me.
I had to vote.
Took it away from you?
I can't click on anything now, so I must have voted.
All right, I will take a voice vote on item G49, purchasing solicitations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Oh, I think that was G48.
It was G48.
I'm not a good wingman.
So I had a motion and a second on item G48, department school initiated agreements. I will take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. That moves us to item G49, I believe. Dr. Mullins?
Yes. Item G49 is on purchasing solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Duskovich. Any discussion?
I do.
Ms. Campbell?
So the purchasing agenda items aren't always, they're just kind of routine and sometimes just boring, but necessary. But this one's kind of fun for the Government Community Relations Department. The print shop, which is back there past the cafeteria in a whole room back there, is excited to have this new equipment, and not just because it's shiny and new, but because of the possibilities. As the GNCR board champion, I'd like to share some of those exciting things. One is money savings. We're always looking for that by about almost $46,000 a year, but it also is going to be able to do more for our schools, and so we can do more in-house and have to farm out less. It'll make things go faster, and
Save
so,
them money.
and which will save our schools money. And it also will use less electricity, and will create less pollution for our for our employees who work in that office, and actually opens up the possibilities where we could offer services to other entities around the county. So it could be a revenue opportunity. But, you know, it's not always exciting, but it's functional, and I think the people in that department are really excited to have this new piece of equipment, and glad to have a 5-year contract, because that means we have those 5 years of saving money. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell,
I'd like
for
to say
sharing that.
something, since she wants to champion hers. If you notice, the actual cell phone towers are being, the old contract and invitation to bid is being eliminated so that we can then go out to do it again, right, Dr. Mullins?
Yes.
And if anybody knows, that is a revenue generator for our schools and something that we were looking forward to doing. And that is coming out of operations. So Mr. Novelli and Sue, thank you for all your guys' work on that. Okay, sorry, just wanted to steal the show a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Susan and Ms. Campbell. Any additional discussion on this item? All right, then I will call for the vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Item G50 is on Legacy Charter Academy, proposed 90-day termination of the charter contract. Before the board takes action, I would like to request to have Ms. Laura Manlove of RSM Auditing provide the board and the viewing audience a presentation of the auditing results, followed by a presentation by Ms. Stephanie Archer, Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Innovation, and Choice. Ms. Manlove, thank you.
Is it working all right? No. Okay. Good evening. My name is Laura Manlove. I'm a CPA out of RSM's risk consulting practice with a focus in public sector. I have served the last 12 years providing internal audit services to various school districts within the state of Florida, as well as other counties and municipalities. I sit here in our local office in Viera, Florida. Accompanying me tonight is Jill Reyes. She's one of our local public sector directors as well. We serve as the district's internal auditors. We report, as Dr. Mullins mentioned, to the audit committee and ultimately to the board. Our audit committee chairman is also with us this evening. Mr. Art Edwards is in the front row. To answer a question that was brought up during public comment, I'd like to just clarify we do not work under the rules of the Auditor General. We are not part of their department. Our firm has quality control standards that are based upon the AICPA guides for consulting services, and our services are provided according to those. At the request of the district, we performed a specific review of Legacy Academy Charter School and issued our report dated October 21st of 2019. We performed a specific review of Legacy previously and issued our prior report in March of 2018. Tonight, I'll provide you with an overview of the recent review, followed by a summary of the results of our prior review in March of 2018 and the current review issued in October of 2019. I will highlight key results of the current review and will have an opportunity for questions and answers. Per Florida statutes, the district is the sponsor to charter schools within Brevard County and is responsible for monitoring those schools for financial condition and other performance areas. During the district's monitoring, areas of concern were noted by the district, and the district called for an independent review. Specific areas of concern identified by the district and included in this review included financial condition, background screenings, board governance, and noncompliance with certain Florida statutes and the charter agreement. During this review, as noted by this timeline, we began by reviewing information obtained from the district's Office of Equity, Innovation, and Choice, and we designed our testing procedures and samples for testing accordingly. We performed testing on-site at Legacy during the week of August 22nd. We attempted to obtain answers to our questions and supporting documentation for approximately 3 weeks. At this time, we met with Stephanie Archer of Equity, Innovation, and Choice to advise her of project status. It was determined that we should continue to work to obtain the information needed to complete our testing procedures. We went back on site to Legacy on October 7th to attempt to wrap up our fieldwork, but the items needed and the principal's time were not available to us that day. Therefore, we notified the district that we were leaving the school with some open items. The district notified the school that EIC staff would accompany RSM on October 8th, the next day, to wrap up the review. We arrived at the appointed time and the principal was not present on school grounds for us to ask questions. She had left a binder of documentation for us, however. We still had some questions on the items, and we noted that the binder did not include all the information that we needed. It was decided we should wrap up our review and write our report to include open items. As a refresher, our prior review in March of 2018 resulted in items of financial emergency and deteriorating financial condition, as well as other items of noncompliance related to fiscal management and board governance. As shown on this slide, this is a summary of our current results. We noted many recurring items in our October 2019 review, including financial emergency and deteriorating financial condition as defined by Florida statutes, multiple areas of concern related to financial management and board governance, and non-compliance with the charter agreement. Background checks were not tested in our March of 2018 review, thus this item is not noted as recurring. Per Florida statute, failure to pay a debt payment when due as a result of lack of funds constitutes financial emergency for the charter school. We were provided the promissory note between Legacy Charter School and Legacy Funding Services for $112,505, which noted that the funds were to be repaid by March of 2019. As of October 2019, according to the records provided to us at the time, this loan had a balance outstanding of $76,074. Thus, the school failed to pay the debt payment when due, which constitutes financial emergency. We reviewed the school's audited financial statements for the year ending June 30 of 2019, which were performed by CPA firm King & Walker. We noted that they indicated a different amount, term, maturity date, and interest rate than the promissory note that was provided to us. We were unable to clarify with the school if this was due to an executed amendment with the lender or if there is another cause of the variances in the financial statements. Florida statutes also state that failure to pay claims within 90 days as a result of lack of funds constitutes financial emergency. During our testing, we were provided a final notice before power is turned off from FP&L. They were requesting payment of $843.96. We also noted a payment to a debt collection agency named IC System for $323.12. We requested original invoices for these two demands for payment in order to determine if they were aged greater than 90 days and thus met the criteria set in Florida statute for financial emergency. The school did not provide them to us during our fieldwork, therefore we are unable to complete our financial emergency testing for these two claims. We reviewed the school's unaudited monthly financial statements submitted to the district by the school and noted that the school improperly reported a promissory loan as a revenue item rather than a liability. This was detected by the district in their review and monitoring process. Had the loan been properly classified, the effect would be to reduce the fund balance and would have caused the school to report a negative fund balance since November of 2018. A negative fund balance indicates that the liabilities are greater than the value of the assets in an entity. I think I'm off by a click. There we go. We reviewed the school's staff roster, which is certified as accurate and submitted to the district by the school, and selected a sample of employees and board members of the school for testing for proper background screening in accordance with Florida statutes. We reviewed hire dates or start dates against clearance records housed in the district's security office. According to the information provided to us, and in assuming that these rosters provided to us were accurate, we noted 2 legacy board members did not have clearance prior to taking position on the board, and 2 substitute teachers did not have clearance while actively employed. 1 teacher was listed on the staff roster with an inaccurate hire date, which had been certified as accurate by the school. We were unable to clarify these open questions with the school, and had we obtained all information needed to complete our testing procedures, these results may have differed. We noted that the charter agreement between the district and the school calls for all assets that were purchased with public funds to revert to ownership to the district should the school terminate. The school pledged all assets to their lender as collateral in the promissory note. This may cause a discrepancy in legal ownership of assets, and council should be consulted to determine what available legal options exist. Florida Statute 1002.33 requires certain governance processes related to parent representation at schools' board meetings, proper public notice of meetings, posting of the meeting minutes to the school's website, and timely submission of monthly financial reports to the district. We noted multiple instances of noncompliance with these sections of Florida statutes as detailed within our report, as well as lack of documentation to be able to conclude on some of the items we sampled for testing. We attempted to review the governing board's policies and procedures to determine if their governing board is operating to sufficiently monitor the financial activity of the school. We also requested copies of all information provided to the governing board for their review. Based upon what was provided to us, the governing board may not be sufficiently monitoring the financial activity of the school, and thus they are at an increased risk of poor proper oversight and fiduciary duty. Had we received all information requested and completed our procedures, our results may have differed. Lastly, we performed detailed testing over a sample of cash disbursements and noted multiple items where insufficient or no documentation was provided. Multiple expenditures also had either no authorization to pay prior to payment or had inappropriate authorization where the sign-off as principal approval was the person who was not the principal at the time. Inappropriate authorization and approval by senior management of the school demonstrates management override and circumvention of internal controls. The school principal, per the school's financial policies, can both authorize and act as check signer for all payments under $5,000 with no other approval required. This process does not provide for appropriate segregation of duties and increases the risk of misappropriation due to error or fraud. During our review, the school did not have a process in place for monitoring debit card purchases and reporting to the governing board, which also increases the risk of misappropriation due to error or fraud. At this time, I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Any board members have any questions for Ms. Manlove? Ms. Duskevich, you look like you might be prepping a question there. Or are you just reviewing?
I'm prepping a question.
Okay, go right ahead.
I want to, you were here for the public comments, correct? I just wanted to clarify what Mr., is it Barrow?
Barrio.
Barrio. A couple of his statements concerned me, and I'm not sure where that came from, that an audit should include viewpoints from school officials. Do you have any policy or statute that is supposed to follow, or is that maybe opinion? Can you help me with that one?
I believe he was referring to the Florida Auditor General's processes and the policy that they follow. And since I am not part of the Florida Auditor General, I do not follow those processes. Our firm does follow the AICPA guidance for consulting services, and that is our due process as your internal auditors.
Okay, thank you. And then the loan related to the school, and that's the note I took from him, loan related to lender school. I think that was back on your chart where it said Legacy was the name of the lender, and then the school was Legacy. Do you understand what his concern was there?
I believe his question was about our sentence in there that says we were unable to determine if this was a related party. I believe that to be a very factual statement. Related parties are something that are typically disclosed within financial statement reports due to the sensitive nature of those types of transactions. They are not uncommon or unlawful in any way, but they are typically disclosed, and thus in our procedures, we looked for a related party relationship, but we were not able to conclude if there was one.
So you weren't inferring that there was a relationship there, you were just stating a fact that there was no evidence that
Yes,
there
ma'am.
was I understand. Okay. Just wanted to, that's the only questions I have at this point. Thank you.
Any other board members? Ms. Campbell?
In the, you didn't referred to it in the PowerPoint presentation, but in the audit report, there was information about a pretty large purchase, I think $60,000 range for computers from a security company. Since that was finalized, have you had any more information received? And this may be because I know your report was finalized, but have we received any more information explaining that purchase or where I believe your report said you didn't find evidence of what that money was spent on?
Correct. So that was a purchase that was included in one of our samples for disbursements. And since the purchase was for equipment, as part of my audit procedures, I would request to view the equipment to ensure it had been received by the entity. And we were unable to conclude that. There were some photos provided in the binder of documentation on our last day of fieldwork, but due to lack of documentation, I'm unable to conclude if those photos were actually the equipment that were purchased.
Okay, thank you.
I have just another.
Go ahead.
The principal was not available. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, was the principal ill? I mean, was there a reason that you were given that the principal is not available? Did you meet with the principal at all at any time you were at the school?
During fieldwork, my team met regularly with the principal,
Okay.
who seems to be the record keeper and has quite a bit of information for us. I don't really know, quite honestly.
On that last
the
day?
reason, no,
Okay.
I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Susan.
So I was looking at, and one of the issues and I wanted to address is the other organization, not the Auditor General, that you guys follow the guidelines. Can you explain that association? So, because I think when you use the acronym, it kind of goes past. Could you explain what that umbrella does, and if all of the external, internal auditors follow that as a standard of practice as opposed to?
Sure. So the Florida Auditor General is a division of state government, and the Auditor General audits all public sector entities within the state of Florida on a rotational basis. They are a branch of government, and sort of like a GFOA for federal, if you will. We are an independent third-party firm who provide consulting services and internal auditing services to our clients, several school districts and counties. So we are part of your internal function for keeping watch over your entity and your organization, and our job is to report any risks that we might become aware of to the audit committee and ultimately to the board.
Awesome, thank you. And then just a couple, may I? A couple follow-ups, thank you. Had the principal been notified prior to not being there that you guys would be there and they would like, you would like her to be there to show you the computers? I mean, had she ever been notified?
Yes, we had regular, constant communication with the principal.
And you had said to her, we'll be back tomorrow or the next day, and she did not come that next day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing is that with these computers that I think Ms. Campbell referenced, was there a packing slip or serial numbers that were provided for that at all? Did you receive any serial numbers saying these are the ones that we purchased?
So that would be what we were looking for and had hoped to obtain that day, and we were not provided those.
Okay, and isn't it standard practice when you're purchasing computers for an entity to receive all of those in a packing slip because of warranties and everything else? Is that kind of standard practice, or?
That would be what I typically expect.
Okay. And then you had referenced in there before about the principal being not the person that should be signed. Did I read correctly that there may be some checks that were written from the person that was to the person that was actually signing the check below? Did that occur?
I don't recall that occurring.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Ms. Manlove? Can we go back to the slide where it showed the negative fund balance since 2018? Except I can't see that. Mike in the back of the room, can you put that on our screen by any chance? Okay, well, I'll try to do from memory. Maybe you can help me if you can see. I can't see it, so.
I have the audit here.
Oh, look at it. Ms. Belford has it. I mean, my question is.
There it
Oh,
goes.
thank
We
you.
got
Thank you. When did we as a district, I guess maybe this might even be for you, Ms. Archer, you said that the district realized at some point
that they were putting in a loan as revenue. Is that, did I get that correct?
That's correct.
So at what point did that happen? Did we go back and make this, or have we known that since November 2018 that there's been a negative fund balance? Does that
The
make
district
sense?
may want to chime in further, but I know that there is someone in the AP department who reviews these on a monthly basis and provides comments back to the charter schools if they note something that looks unusual or non-compliant. I believe it is up to the school to decide if they would like to update those monthly reports or not. And it may be that they were not updated. I'm not entirely sure how that happened.
Ms. Archer, do you know, do you guys, I just want to understand the process. Do they provide our district or your office with this every month? Have we been seeing this since November 2018, that they've had a negative fund balance, or is this new information to us?
We did not constantly see that negative fund balance because it was not appropriately reported, but they were noted to make changes in their monthly comments. And so those go through our finance department, and Ms. Andrews oversees that, and I get the end result and I read over it. And so very often they will make comments and corrections, action needed in the future, or please resubmit. And this is done through charter tools as well as sent to them. But that is not something I get after the facts. We do keep an eye on it, but it's been very hard because sometimes their information has come late and it's not always accurate.
Okay, so did we just find out through this audit that they've had a negative fund balance for a year? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Ms. Belford.
Any other board members have any additional questions for Ms. Manlove? All right, thank you so very much for being here with us this evening and for the information that you provided. I believe Ms. Archer is now going to provide additional information.
Good evening. I am going to follow RSM with a brief update regarding Legacy Academy. So let's just kind of build some information about the history of Legacy. They opened their doors in 2017, 2018. This is a brief synopsis of their student membership over the last 3 years. I've included the mission statement so that you can see what they strive to achieve, but I want you to focus on a few words within this mission statement that will be related to student achievement slides that are upcoming. One, that Legacy is going to provide a rigorous academic program. Two, that they purport to be a STEM school, science, technology, engineering, and math. And three, that they will have a select curriculum that aligns with the Florida state standards. Currently, Dr. Mullins is making the recommendation for proposed 90-day termination for statutory cause. Statutory cause can be a number of different things, but we're going to talk about the statutory cause specific to Legacy. 1, student achievement. 2, exceptional education. 3, fiscal management. 4, background screening. And 5, violation of law and breach of contract. This slide is a chart that just kind of gives you an idea about the student achievement. ESSA, which is Every Student Succeed Act, holds all public schools accountable for monitoring the progress of their subgroups. And there's a 2-year comparative analysis that you can see here with their subgroups from 2017-18 and then 2018-19. They have 5 subgroups that performed below the target of 41% proficiency. Then you also see that the Florida Department of Education School and Accountability grade originally gave them a grade of C their first year, and last year they earned a grade of D, only missing an F by 3 points. I also do want to further indicate that through the school improvement process, Legacy, just like our schools, identify their own goals for improvement, and they've missed those goals for the past 2 years, and those are all self-identified goals that they wish to achieve through their school improvement plan. The next slides will provide a true 2-year comparison in the areas of FSA. Here you will see for the ELA, which statutorily all charter schools are to have a very strong reading focus. There was a 16% increase in non-proficient performance of the students, leaving 57% of the student population earning a level 1 or 2. With the FSA mathematics, there was a 4% increase in non-proficient student performance, with 73% of the student population not performing on grade level. In the arena of science, there was a 32% increase in non-proficient performance, having 87% of their students not being proficient in the arena of science. The last 2 slides, to me, are extremely, again, we're going back to the mission statement to provide a rigorous academic program. As a STEAM school, science and math should be a focus, and their curriculum should align with Florida standards. And so, unfortunately, the data you see here do not support those 3 missions within that statement. The second topic of concern is exceptional student education. IEP services are all individualized for, as you know, for every student. So the number of minutes that each student receives or what services they receive are based on their needs. In 2017-18, 2018-19, the Division of Student Services conducted an ESE audit at Legacy. The audit findings for 2017-18, there were 4 findings, and in 18-19, there were 7 findings of noncompliance. So now that we owe children compensatory education, which means we owe services to the students because those services were not provided to them. In 2017-18, it was determined that there were 29 students that were owed compensatory ed. In 2018-19, there were 5 students who were owed service time. To date, we have further investigation to do, but we think there are over 40 students who now have compensatory ed owed to them. I need to note that it is the school's duty to provide these services first, but if they do not, or if the students transfer it now becomes incumbent upon BPS to make up those minutes. The third area, fiscal management, was another area of concern. I don't need to go into great depth because RSM did a great job with their presentation. Do note, and I know you're aware, that they had already had 2 audits. Findings from both audits indicate a failure of general financial oversight, inclusive of monitoring expenditures. We have a lack of documented policies and procedures for that fiscal management. As the sponsor, we are statutorily obligated to notice the Florida Department of Education if any of our charter schools are in financial corrective action or financial deterioration, at which time we notice the FDOE on November 8th. The fourth issue being background screening. Background screening is related to the Jessica Lunsford Act, whereby for the safety and the welfare of students per statute, no school employee or member of the governing board may be on the campus with students until fingerprints are processed and the person has been cleared through BPS Security Division. This also applies to our vendors and volunteers. Legacy has received 15 official notices to indicate that the school had employees and governing board members on campus with students without fingerprinting processed or clearance notification from the sponsor. The last one, violation of law and breach of contract, is kind of a catch-all for a variety of different things. Starting with the collateral for a promissory note, the school appears to have pledged assets purchased with public funds to a lender. There are late submissions of their monthly financial reports. As I indicated on Ms. Deskovich's question, very hard to monitor when things don't come in on time. There's a failure to comply with laws regarding teacher certification. There have been frequent opportunities in which employees were in front of students not properly certified for instructional purposes. And then the governance. Insufficient board oversight of all financials, which has led to financial deterioration. There's no evidence in the board addressing ongoing student achievement challenges. There's insufficient written governing board policies, procedures. The public is not always properly noticed of board meetings, and published minutes do not always accurately reflect board meeting agendas. So what are your next steps? As I mentioned, Dr. Mullins is recommending to proceed with a 90-day termination of our contract with Legacy Charter School. I do want to remind the board this is not an opportunity to cure. They've had an opportunity to cure each time they were noticed for concerns, deficiencies, or defaults. So based on your discussion then, whatever you decide upon, if you move forward with Dr. Mullins' recommendation, then my office will send written notice to Legacy that we will move forward on a 90-day termination of their contract with the district. If that is the case, upon that time, the school's options are to convene a governing board meeting where they can publicly decide to terminate their contract with the district or voluntarily close, or upon receiving that same notice, they have 14 calendar days in which to request a hearing with the administrative law judge. I thank you for your time, and I'll remain here at the podium should you have any questions.
Any board members have questions for Ms. Archer? I have one question, Mr. Archer,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
on process, because I have had a couple of people that have reached out and a couple of, and I don't know if this is best for you or perhaps for Ms. Enval, but in the event that the 90-day termination is approved and the Legacy Board decides to go the administrative law judge route, what is the process from there? I think there are a lot of people who are thinking if we issue a 90-day termination, we are shutting down the school 90 days from today, and that's all there is to it. If it goes that route, does the school stay open for the remainder of the school year? How does that work for the students?
The school will remain open until we sever our contract. Currently, under the amended contract, they have an expedited hearing request with the administrative law judge of 45 days. And then, of course, it all depends on the administrative law judge's schedule. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Enville, sometimes that will be within that 90 days. It may go a little bit longer than that. We are at the mercy of their ability to hear.
We are, especially now that we have the intervening holidays as well.
So, Ms. Enval, this might be for you. In the event, if it goes forward, the 90-day termination is approved, the ALGA is requested, the hearing is scheduled, the ALJ makes a ruling on March 10th and says that the school should in fact be shut down.
So if that is the case, the district has to take over the operation of that school. So we would have to make plans for those children accordingly with respect to placement. The district could choose to keep the school open and operate it, or make arrangements for those children to be moved to their home zone school, or give them choice options.
And what happens to the debts of the charter school in that incident? Does the district do we take on their debt?
We're not
liable for their debt of any kind.
Okay.
But we would have to take the assets that belong that were purchased with public
Correct.
funds and figure out what to do with those.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask about, the items that were purchased with public
funds, and something was used as collateral, right? Didn't you say something was
Right,
used as collateral?
right. So when the school would close down, we would go in and collect all of the items purchased with public funds because it reverts back to the district, including whatever leftover monies they may have in their accounts. That reverts back to us as well. But unfortunately, with whatever monies might be available, they do have to pay their debtors first, their debts first. And so we may walk away with nothing, but we don't own whatever debt they are in, their building or anything along those lines.
So from a timing perspective and to address perhaps some perceptions, Legacy is in essence receiving funding for the students that they are currently serving.
Yes, ma'am.
If the district has to step in and run the school mid-school year, or if those students are placed back into the public schools, does the district then get the funding for those
Yes.
students, even
Yes.
if it's past the April or is it October and February FTE?
We would collect back the FTE, yes.
If it is past February?
Yeah, I believe so. Because we would still be responsible for running the school. So I would probably have to check with accounting just to be sure.
Okay, so it wouldn't be, the reason I ask is there's going to be costs to serving those students in that situation, right?
Absolutely.
So I guess just clarification for the fact that this is not we're not benefiting in any way,
No.
shape, or form by the recommendation that's come forward.
No, it's never an easy decision.
Ms. Deskovich has a question, Ms. Archer.
So there's two options if we go forward with a 90-day termination, and that is to take over the school, run the school for the rest of the year, or return everybody to homeschools. Did I understand that correctly? No?
That was an option the district made a number of years ago, but it was because it was very close to an end of a school year.
Okay.
And so that is why, at that point in time, the district leadership decided to keep that school moving for the continuity of the
So
children
if
for
it
the
was
last
something
couple
like
weeks.
April, we would say,
Yes.
let's just get in there and. okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any chance this would drag out with the?
I would,
We
it's
don't
very hard to tell. We don't
Right.
know.
Okay, then hypothetically, if it drug out like that and we decided just to go in, what does that look like? Do we send just leadership staff in and they keep their teachers till the end of the year? How does something like that even, how does that work?
Well, in the past, I would have to go back into, I believe, what happened with Explorer. Christine, you want to come up here? She might be more knowledgeable, was in the office at that time. I know that we had one of our own principals take over the oversight, not only of her school, but of this particular charter school. They are their employees. We don't own them. They don't become, they're not on our payroll. So we would still pay them, but we don't they don't become BPS employees. But Christine, do you have anything you want to add to that?
During the time when Explorer did implode at that time, we did bring in a principal to run the school. At the same time, there was no governing board, they all left, and approximately, I would say, a quarter to almost a half of the staff left as well. So we scrambled to find teachers to fill the positions to cover the students and their needs there at the school. Additionally, because they're not our employees, they're charter school employees, it became difficult to figure out how to pay them because they could not go through our payroll, obviously. So finance had to set up a different process in order to be able to continue paying them and paying the taxes, employee taxes and stuff as we need as well. Joanne was here, I believe, at the time. She would probably know better, or Karen Strickland on that part of it. But it was a lot of trying to figure out where the records, as well as what assets belong to others. That took up a lot of district time, not just also the operation of the school.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's all I have, Ms. Belford.
The only thing I would add, just for clarification, there are, Legacy Governing Board has options, has choices to either voluntarily close, or if they want to have the findings presented before an ALJ, that directly impacts what our next decision or, action would be because of the timing. If they were to choose to voluntarily close, we would work with them on a feasible timeline of that and so on. So it's a pending board approval. It's hard to determine exactly what that would look like. And then, of course, there would have to be a decision on legacy, if that makes sense. So our next action is dependent on a couple other next actions as well.
May I again, Misty? Can you remind us of, as we have 2 board members that were not here during the last cycle, do you have a recollection of how long ago that was? Did we do a 90-day termination?
We started the 90-day termination process in April of 2018. And it was the board's decision after Legacy presented to do an amendment to their contract, which had a preamble stating that they would work very diligently to correct the 6 actions that they had infractions on. So you'll see a lot of these same infractions from that first go-around appear again. And at that point in time, the board decided to allow them to remain open in hopes that things would get better.
Okay, thank you. I'm finished.
Any board members have any additional questions for Ms. Archer or Ms. Manlove? My intent is to call for wishes of the board, and then that would open up for actual discussion on the motion if you all wanted to have discussion at that point. But I just wanted to make sure that there were no additional questions before we move to that point. Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
So moved. So moved.
Moved by Ms. Deskovich, seconded by Mr. Susan. Is there any discussion? Sorry, I am logged out.
I am too. I was trying to restart, but I can do a few comments while you guys restart. You probably all have to close if 2 of us did and reopen. It's with no great pleasure that that we have to even entertain this or move this way. I heard your public comments about the children and learning in the library and loving to learn to read. And I have no doubt that there's children in that school and that there's employees in that school that love the environment. I visited over there. It seemed like a delightful place. But what's going on behind the scenes with the finances, it's not in good shape and it's not getting any better. As you heard Ms. Archer say, we were here a year ago. We really wanted to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but there's decisions being made at the higher level that are not good for your children. And we've gotten a few emails that say your students are receiving A's, and my first thoughts are we've seen the standards they're learning or they're missing, and I'm not sure what they're getting A's on, but those numbers are astonishingly drastic. The science numbers alone, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but to see that much drop in a year, there's no great service long-term going on for the children in that school. So I'm going to end up voting to support the superintendent's recommendation. Thank you, Ms. Belford.
Thank you, Ms. Deskovich. Any other board member would like to make comments?
I would. We are blessed with some pretty amazing charter schools in our county. We have 12 charter schools working on 14 campuses, and I'll be honest and say I hate to lose that opportunity for our students in the North End and the Titusville area. But when I look at the report and the information that was given and was not given, I just can't fathom that an organization that was that close to being that has been this close to being shut down would not do everything in their power possible to present as much information as possible to the auditing services that we have employed to provide information to the board. I agree with Ms. Deskovich. I'm sure there are some happy families and things going on, but the truth is, if our students are not being successful, their needs are not being met, we're in danger of violating federal law when it comes to the special ed services, exceptional student services that must be provided. And just again and again and again, we get the default notices and things aren't being taken care of. And those are students. Those aren't just notices. Each one of those notices represents students who are being underserved. And so it is disappointing, to say the least, that the leadership of the organization did not provide the information necessary to make sure that we have what we need. If it was there, why wasn't it provided? And I think there was some question in the comments of why did they go ahead and they didn't have all the facts. Well, the reason why they didn't have all the facts was because they weren't provided by the organization, and that is disappointing, and it's actually a little bit scary, because that says to me that it's either not there or I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that, but that's very disappointing. But I concur. I will support the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Susan.
So I concur with colleagues about many of the charters that are inside of our district. We have one that's not even a stone's throw away from here that's run locally. They do an amazing job. We have another one opening. We're a very pro-charter, pro-choice district that is comparative to other districts that are not. I do agree with the sentiments that we tried very hard and almost may have done a disservice to the children that were inside that school to give them an opportunity to continue. I will say that after looking that the student achievement has dropped, that the management override of controls that occurred, and not just a little bit of override of controls, but no serial numbers for computers, checks that were being written and signed by the same people, things like that. Financial risk and instability that occurred with using a loan as revenue source and everything else. Those are common practices and procedures. And not serving our ESC populations properly is really, really upsets me. And I feel that we've done our due diligence with this. I feel that we've gone the extra mile, and I think it's time that we have to come to the conclusion that we're going to support the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. Ms. McDougall, did you want to comment?
Sure. I am concerned about our students, and that's what it's all about for us. We're all here because we care about our students' academic achievements. And 40-plus possible students in ESE that have not been served their minutes. As Ms. Campbell stated, this has federal consequences, but also these students are missing out. And the drop in academics is troubling. It's troubling. We are here to help our students succeed. And I agree that if this is second time around, and I would have worked very, very, very hard and to make it right for my students in my school if I knew that we were falling behind. I did not realize they were only 3 points away from an F. I'm concerned about the students that are there.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Any additional board comments before I comment? Dr. Mullins, did you want to comment?
No, I just appreciate the work of Equity, Innovation, and Choice to work with the school to support them and provide what assistance they could. And it is, like it's already been said, there is no benefit to having to move in this direction other than we have an obligation to the students and the parents of the children of the school, and to meet our federal and our state statute obligations and requirements.
So I went out and met with Ms. Monfort after the audit came out, and she unfortunately had not yet had an opportunity to read the audit when I was there. But I shared with her what I will share with you all and what I will share with my fellow board members, and that is from the very inception of Legacy, I personally have never had a question about the passion or the commitment of the leadership of Legacy, or the passion or commitment of the teachers at Legacy. But we are at a point, as I explained, that I am incredibly concerned. Not only do we see the student achievement data as presented in the presentation tonight, but many of their students who have been with them for 2 years have actually lost 2 years of learning. So they have students who came in and were testing out at a level 3, 4, or 5 and have gone down 1 or 2 levels in the 2 years that they have been there. And I have no doubt that there are some students that are doing well there, and I think that they have built a good culture within Legacy for the students. And I think they're passionate about wanting to serve them. But we are 2.5 years into Legacy, and we're continuing to see the exact same issues that we were seeing 2.5 years ago, with deadlines not being met and commitments not being kept. And when we went through the amended charter last year, I had the opportunity to sit down. This was September 11th, 2018, that we went through the amended charter, and I had the opportunity to sit down with the Legacy representatives as well as the superintendent, and Ms. Enval, and I believe representatives from Equity, Innovation, and Choice, and literally go through this amended charter, everything that was changed in the charter, and make sure that they understood what the expectations were, what all of the things meant, what the role of the board was, and the success of Legacy. And since we approved this amended charter September 11th, 2018, we have had, I believe, an additional 26 notices of deficiency, much of it on the same things. And I understand the tendency to want to be optimistic and to think that you're turning things around. And I wanted to be optimistic as well. But we continue to hear the same things that we heard when we were here a year ago, a little over a year ago. That there are new ESE people in place that are going to serve the ESE students, that the compensatory ed plan is being developed, that there's new leadership or new legal support that's going to help them stay on track, or new management that's going to help them stay on track. And the unfortunate truth is that 2.5 years in, not much has changed as far as progress in the right direction with meeting those expectations, both of federal law, of state law, and of their charter contract. And we are at a point now where not only are we not going in the right direction on so many of those things, but most importantly, we are going in the wrong direction for serving students, and we are seeing that students are declining significantly. So at this point, we have student achievement concerns. We have concerns with our special education students not being served the way that they should be served per the audit. We have financial concerns. And then we have a lot of the other things that probably don't seem like that big of a deal, like posting minutes or agendas or meeting notices. But they are a big deal when you put them all together and you realize that they are statutorily required to do these things and have been for 2.5 years. And they're still not happening the way that they're supposed to be happening. In addition to that, the audit that was brought forward and presented by RSM, it was almost a full 2-month time period that Legacy had to respond to the request for information provided. And I simply cannot, when I met with Ms. Monford, she said to me, well, a lot of that documentation I didn't have because I wasn't principal at the time. And I understand if you're not principal at the time, but my explanation to her is, this is one of the challenges that we've had with Legacy from the beginning, is no one seems to be willing to take responsibility for the things that are supposed to be happening. And the bottom line is, regardless of who is sitting in the principal's seat, the board is responsible to make sure that the daily operations are taking place as they should be. They are statutorily required to create a paper trail on expenditures with public taxpayer dollars. And those things aren't there, and we're still seeing those same tendencies for 2.5 years. And so as much as I am
probably the most anti-school closure person. At this point, I can no longer advocate for continuing to allow this to go on, and so I too will be supporting the superintendent's recommendation for the termination. Is there any additional discussion? Then I will call for a vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
The next action item is to hear public comments on Board Policy 5500, followed by a board vote.
Is there anyone present this evening who's come to address the revisions to Board Policy 5500, student conduct? Is there anyone present this evening who's come to address the revisions to Board Policy 5500, student conduct? What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall, I believe. Any discussion? Please vote. The motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
The next item for your consideration is the renaming of Endeavor Elementary School. Prior to board approval, I would like to ask Ms. Jane Klein, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Leading and Learning, to provide a little bit of background about this proposal, really as a celebratory note for our Endeavor Elementary School. Ms. Klein?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me once again celebrate the great things that are happening in Endeavor. Thought I'd give you a little background about Endeavor Elementary and our path to making a community school. A little bit over 9 years ago, it was brought to Brevard Public Schools to say, do you want to make a community school? What do you want to do? So our partners with UCF began. The principal at that time was Rashad Wilson. And Rashad and I took on the path of learning about what a community school was. We visited community schools. We read a lot. We learned a lot. And Rashad Wilson knocked on a lot of doors to get the community involved. He was instrumental in bringing the city of Cocoa on board as a partner that other cities should be jealous of the partnership that that community, the support for Endeavor. So Rashad and I began that work, and under Rashad Wilson's leadership, we were named the second elementary school in the state of Florida to be a community school. So that was 5 years ago. I think, wow, that was 5 years ago. And so this past October, UCF started the standards review process. There are 12 standards that you have to pass to be named a UCF Community Partnership School. And as we sat there with Community Children's Home Society, the City of Cocoa, Brevard Health Alliance, Church of Viera, all the partners that are instrumental on the board that supports Endeavor's community school. And as they presented the findings, it's one of those days that I wish all of you could have been there, and I never realized how impactful that day of hearing the UCF board present about the great things. And typically they don't announce how well you do. They say, oh, we've reviewed you, we'll let you know. And as they continued to tell the story with Chris Reed, the current principal, about the transformation of Endeavor, it was just one of those moments that, just choked you up. It just was great. When they talked about how they've seen the focus on the whole community embracing that school, and the children, and the mental health, the physical health, the wraparound services for children. And as we finished that day, UCF said, "You're the first elementary school to be recertified." So as we left that day, we didn't have it official. You've seen now the documentation. But in the state of Florida right now, there are 3 named community schools that have been recertified. Evans High School in Orange County was the first. And then Wise Elementary in Pensacola, and then Endeavor. I remember the days when Mr. Wilson and I were trying to get everything finished for the first initial acknowledgement of being a community school. And literally, Wise Elementary was 1 week ahead of us. And so we were trying hard to beat them to be the first elementary, but they beat us by just a little bit. Currently, there are 12 schools in the implementation process of being a UCF Community Partnership School. There are 10 schools in the planning area. And I just want to acknowledge our core partners in Brevard, Brevard Health Alliance, Children's Home Society, Eastern Florida, and UCF, and then again, the city of Cocoa. So in October, Endeavor was recertified as a UCF Community Partnership School, and that will be in effect till June 30th, 2025, with every year a little audit of our work. So just to celebrate once again, we are one of 3 UCF Community Partnership Schools, and thus wanting to change the name of Endeavor to Endeavor Elementary, a UCF Community Partnership School. Any questions?
That's great work.
I have a question.
Ms. Deskovich?
Hi, Ms. Deskovich.
Hi. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We share in your excitement. This is just a, like almost semantical. Are we going to change signs? I mean, it's a long name to
No.
be. Okay. This is.
No, we are just going to put it on our letterhead and be able to publicize that we are truly a UCF Community Partnership School.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other board members?
One of only 3 in the state right now.
Yeah.
Can we add that?
Why don't we just add that to the
One of
title
only 2
too? It's
elementary
already like 2 lines long.
I want to just say, Ms. Klein, and Endeavor, of course, is near and dear to most of our hearts here because all of us volunteered there to help students last year. But it's an amazing school. It's got an amazing principal and staff, and I am so excited for them. So well done.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, I believe I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve
Second.
the name.
Oh, wait, you wanted to do it?
It's my school, man.
It's her school.
Ms. McDougall
Just seconded.
makes a motion. Mr. Susan
Give me that
seconds.
mic, you person over there. I'm like, man, this could be fun. I just
tough
trying to
crowd.
help along.
Any additional discussion?
12 minutes till we gotta be out
All right, please vote.
Okay, I was just trying to help you out.
I know, the backup plan is leaving in 7 minutes.
And the motion passes 5-0. That brings us to the information agenda. The information agenda includes items for board review and will be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Mullins.
There are 3 agenda items under the information category.
Does any member, Mr. Susan, wish to discuss anything else on the information agenda?
H55, project management, attendance boundary proposals. Just like to put some clarification. Yep. Am I good to go?
Go right ahead.
So for the new Vieira Elementary School, we had we're trying to move at fast pace, and Elementary Leading and Learning sent out a letter to everybody, and it was just an intent to start the process of what we're about to do for boundary changes and everything else. There was a lot of discussion in my district about what does this mean, what's going on, and then rumor mills and everything else start, and then miscommunication and stuff like that occurs. So I did want to clarify, take a minute and clarify some of the stuff that's going to happen, show the direction of the district, and talk to some of the issues that maybe some of the parents would like to be alleviated. The first one is today's is just an informational agenda item. This doesn't mean that we're taking any action on anything. It's just to bring it up as the first step. The other thing is that Suhan has put together a boundary meeting committee that's going to meet on December 5th. They're going to go over all of the different plans and processes and procedures, and Viera has a great representative named Kayla Spellman who's going to be on there to address some of those concerns. And then due to what they come out with that committee on December 5th, until the 17th, staff is going to come together with a plan that will be brought to the board. And then on December 17th, we'll listen to it, and then we'll make our recommendations, and then the final approval and plan and everything else comes out on January 24th. So for a lot of the parents that are inside my area that are concerned about this, there is concern to make sure we do the right thing, but everything that we're doing is moving forward in the right direction. Also wanted to kind of talk to a couple of the little issues. Staff is seeing the issue, couple of the parents were saying is, look, there's a lot of those homes out there that haven't been built out, and Viera's building at 300 homes per 6 months or whatever it is. Why don't we hard boundary those to the new school? Staff has been reviewing some of those, and it seems that seems like a favorable one where there's no construction already, that they're going to hard boundary some of those. And the ELO option that they're looking at for the rest of the district, which is Manatee, Quest, Suntree, all of those in the area, and the rest of the county, one of the issues that people had the concern was if you miss the first ELO process, what happens if you live right next to the school and you just moved in? Is there going to be another one? So they're looking at what to do to accommodate that issue. So I do want to give a huge thank you to Suhan. She has worked diligently over the last 3 years with many individuals inside my community. She took all the PTO parents along with other individuals that were leaders inside the community of concern, and she had meetings with them and said, hey, what is your concerns? And she worked with them brilliantly. And I look forward to Ms. Han seeing again to continue that same work and move forward. So I just wanted to say that was just a quick update for the people that are watching that are in the Viera area. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Susan, for that update. And I think, Ms. Han, you can just give me a nod if I'm correct on this. At some point in this process, there will be community discussions, correct? Yes. Okay. Yeah, it was a questionable. It was
Just trying to figure out the dates.
Yeah.
That's all.
And you don't have to come up if that's fine. I just want to make sure that if Mr. Susan did a great job of displaying the fact that we're not taking action, nothing is definite at this point. I just wanted to make sure that we still had on radar to have some community meetings and discussions for some of those areas that would be impacted. Very good. Thank you so much. All right. Then, anything else on the information agenda that anyone wanted to discuss before we move into board reports and discussion items? Okay, that brings us to board member reports. I know, Ms. Deskovich, you have requested a discussion point on lacrosse. Were there any board member reports beyond our initial recognitions? I will just mention I have not gotten a legislative update out to you all. We did have a legislative committee meeting last Friday, but as you all know, I was here with you, and so I have to go back and watch that meeting and type up my notes and get them out to you. We continue to move forward in committee weeks. There are lots of bills that are being presented, and some good committee discussions this week. So my hope is that I will find some time this week to get that review done and get messages.
So fast. It's like,
they do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do the update, and then next week's
It's crazy.
something totally different.
So anyway, I will get that out to you as soon as I am able. And then, Ms. Deskovich, I believe you wanted to discuss, it says lacrosse, but I think there's a...
I probably should have given Pam a little more direction on what I wanted that titled. You all received by copy an email to me from Mr. Novelli on School Board Policy 8605, School Bus Safety Procedures. So that's what I would like to talk about, school bus safety procedures. I've had a couple parents call recently. I referencing this policy, we have some new, very well-trained bus drivers that are following our policies to a T, which we commend them for. However, our policy says that it's talking about items you can bring or you are prohibited from bringing on the bus, and they include tennis rackets, baseball bats, et cetera, et cetera. This started from the two parents that called. Their two families called. Both of their children tried to bring lacrosse sticks on the bus to and from school. They're practicing at school, and apparently they're practicing at a field near their house at home. And so they're trying to bring it back and forth, and the bus driver is not allowing them on the bus. They have further concerns for baseball season because one of the families, their other son, rides that same bus, and he has for the past 2 years brought his baseball bats, all of his equipment, in a bag back and forth, and now she's fearful that he's not going to be able to bring those on in the spring either. When I read our policy, when you compare it, Mr. Novelli was kind enough to include the policies from Seminole, Orange, Osceola, Volusia, and they all vary quite a bit. I think in summary, most of them say as long as you can hold it on your lap or between your legs and keep it within your area, that they allow it. If it has to go in the aisle and become an obstruction, then they don't. So I wanted to discuss with you all if you'd be willing to consider to amend our policy. I don't know how we could ever get the lacrosse sticks on. Some of these are almost 6 feet long. Mr. Novelli, is that how long they are? Almost 6 feet long. So I have concerns. So are we saying the only students that are going to be able to play lacrosse are students that have moms that are home and can drive them back and forth? And I think Mr. Novelli, you did his due diligence and gave us options of maybe they can store them at school, but then mom says no, he practices in the backfield every day after school. So just wanted to brainstorm with you all, see what you're willing to consider. I think if you have any other ideas, I'm willing to go get some brackets and a drill myself and strap them to the top of the bus, but Dr. Mullins thought that might violate some
Safety.
safety issues, yeah, but better than I'm laying down
Our
in the
buses
aisle.
are highly regulated.
I know. You know me. I'm just like, fix it or I'm coming down there with a drill. So, Anybody have any thoughts, 2 cents, help, assistance, opinions?
Well,
Ms. McDougall?
First and foremost, it's about safety. Let's hope that we never have a bus crash, but every now and then you read about, and not in our state, in other states where there have been horrible accidents, not by the fault of the bus driver, but of other drivers. That would be a projectile. If there was even in a slow moving, and you're right, it's a big item. I don't know if there's any spot, I haven't been in a bus in a long time, that specifically you could hide underneath the seat. I just don't know that. I certainly don't want to change about bats. I think that there's a lot of ramifications about bringing things such as bats, something that could be used as a weapon at the same time. Typically, baseball players probably wouldn't do that, but I get concerned about safety. To me, it's about safety. That's why we have buses. There's regulations, and like Dr. Mullen says, it's highly regulated. But if there's a way or a place, someplace that we can store them, great. But I don't know enough about the makeup of a bus, but I'm assuming that most of our buses are pretty full. Would that be a fair statement, or no? Or okay. So I don't know if there's a creative way to get like a carrier. You know how some of the cars have little carriers that you shove things in? I don't know if that's possible or not, but.
Mr. Susan?
So I actually coached lacrosse, I coached baseball, I've coached a couple of them, so this has come up issues before. As a coach, this was something that we recognized, and we would try as much as possible to allow the kids to store them after the games, after practice, all that stuff. But there are instances where the D poles, which are the 6-foot poles, and certain things would come across where the kids, because of whatever reason, have these things, and then they don't have a way to get to school, and then they don't have it for the next day. There was always just that couple of things that would always happen. I do agree with you on the using, they could be used as weapons or whatever. and projectiles, but at the same time, in a lot of baseball bags, they're inside the bags. And a lot of tennis rackets are inside the bags. And then there's a lot of other things that individuals obtain while on the bus that could also be projectiles and also used as weapons. So that one I kind of went around and I think we were okay there. And what I would suggest, being the former coach, and I called a couple of the lacrosse coaches on this because of the email that went out and everything else, and they had said, why don't we ask the superintendent if there's an opportunity of somewhere on the bus that can be used for it, and then ask the lacrosse association if they would be willing to fund putting some of them inside of the buses that are there. The lacrosse association has funding to do certain things, and they would be more than willing to work, I'm sure, with the school district to make this happen. They've been nothing but a great partnership for the entire time. And because I do know that every once in a while a kid has a depot, and he may be 15 years old and he can't get up there. And I will tell you that for lacrosse is the only sport some of these kids play, and it means a lot to them. And when you don't have your specific stick, you don't perform at the rate that you really want. So I would be willing to put the best minds together to try to figure out if there's an opportunity, and I think that the Lacrosse Association would be willing to come up with funding to assist in that area. I don't know if that's the solution, but I am glad that we're not Volusia County that doesn't allow live reptiles, insects, and animals
You
on
like
there.
that one?
Because I think that this is definitely something that would be interesting, and I'm glad we don't have that in ours.
Or marine life.
Or marine life. I mean, like, that is us. I mean, come on. But I think it's a common theme of concern, but I think we can get past that, and I think there's a way around it. And that would be my recommendation if moving forward, rather than, because don't get me wrong, I would take a screw gun and be bolting stuff to the side of the school buses. We know that. So I am trying to learn here and be better as your vice chair to come up with a good solution of coalition and collaboration.
I just wanted to go rogue, and since I'm not chair anymore, I'll take over your role of wanting to violate.
I've got multiple screw guns. I'll meet you in the bus depot. We can get in trouble
Listen,
together.
listen to Seminoles. Did you guys read Seminoles? Athletic equipment, books, musical instruments, coats, backpacks, and other such items must be kept out of the aisle. I mean, that's a fair statement. These items should be held on the student's lap or placed on the floor between the student's feet. Students may not sit on backpacks or musical instrument cases. Like, that is vague enough that if a student comes with a tennis racket in their backpack sticking out, we don't throw them off the bus if the bus driver is following to a T. My point is twofold. One, a short-term solution. I don't know what funding would do from lacrosse. Like, you want them to raise money for brackets of some
For every
sort? That,
bus that might
No,
hold a student playing lacrosse.
you're not talking about a massive amount of buses.
Okay.
So it could be something that is placed inside where I don't know what it is. I just saw it.
I think that's an avenue.
Yeah,
So
that's
there's
all.
that, but I also would like us to consider addressing this policy, and that's going to take a couple months, like all of our policies, but just to make it more comprehensive and a little more vague instead of calling out. I mean, nobody called me about a tennis racket, but I think a tennis racket is a little absurd, because I think you can even fit that in your backpack a little bit, yeah?
To the extent it's helpful, I had a telephone conference with Mr. Novelli and Mark Langdorf about liability issues about that. It's my understanding that the inside of buses is very highly regulated, and there was no place to, we couldn't violate the provisions of the Florida Administrative Code 6A 3.0171, which provides that everything shall be securely fastened and shall not block any aisle or exit at any time. So that was the concern, that we may not be able to add those types of devices, shelves, whatever, to the inside of the bus. That would be something we'd have to explore a little bit more. With respect to the policy decision, that is policy language that's suggested by Neola. If the board were to intentionally go against the intent of the administrative code, it would probably affect us in case something happens. There's a lot of what ifs, but in case something happens, we may be found negligent for actually doing so.
So what?
If Seminole did it, can we?
All of these are not.
No, they're not. They don't
Every
specifically
single
call
one
out
that he
anybody.
gave us
Mm-mm.
is not word for word what Neola, like, I mean, the reptile from Volusia, that whole marine animals.
I like
I wonder
it.
what happened there.
Can we
that
add
they had
farm
to-
animals? We can add farm animals on there somewhere.
Goats.
Goats.
We also have no foldable scooters.
I saw that. There must have been an instance.
Yeah. So, Ms. Enval, are you recommending we don't touch that policy?
No, I'm just recommending if you are going to look at that policy, make sure you're not violating the intent of the statute, so that we are the rules, so that we don't get any negligence claims on that.
Okay, so.
But I think it's our policy, and you can make it more vague if you want to. But I think in this particular case, a 6-foot lacrosse stick, I don't know that there was a place. I think the email said that Dr. Miller searched for a location on the bus, and there wasn't a place to store it that wouldn't block the aisle and or the emergency exit.
Okay, Madam Chair, what do you want to do with all that information? Can you help? I mean,
It seems to me like the administrative code only applies to the inside of the bus. Does it restrict what we can do on the outside of the bus?
There are also regulations for the outside of the bus because
Including
they
the
have
color.
to be, they have to
You
have
could attach
all
it to
of,
the arm in the front.
It can
No, I'm
be
just
the
kidding.
new arm.
It could be the arm.
Sorry.
We wanted to extend those stop signs.
I don't think we can have a scat bus where we have bicycles on the front of the school bus, but I'd have to have it researched. I don't know that there is any conditions. I know we can't wrap school buses. I know we can't do those types of things.
Advertise.
What is the extent beyond that? I don't know.
I think we can get creative.
So I think there are a few issues here, and you know we're making some jokes about it, but absolutely safety is a number one priority in making sure that our students are safe during transport. I also think that there are some equity issues here to be considered and the potential negative impact to students. So I think we, at the very least, need to perhaps schedule this for a more in-depth discussion at maybe our next, if we have a workshop where we could squeeze some time in, or if we have an offsite that we're going to be discussing, and perhaps we as board members can reach out to board members in our neighboring districts and see if anyone has come up with any creative solution. And in the meantime, perhaps we can get some of those school bus regulations so we can try to work within the parameters of those. Ms. Enval, could you potentially leave a note for your
I
for
can
your
leave a note,
predecessor or for your successor, I guess?
And I think that Dr. Miller probably has those available to him. I guess.
Excellent. And Ms. Escobar, would you mind looking for an opportunity to include on an upcoming agenda for us to opportunity to discuss?
We make that note after the individual takes the job and goes into the office, because we also have a class action lawsuit against Jewel possibly. We have this. They might come in and be
I
like,
have files galore for the
okay,
next
good. We just
person.
bury it in there somewhere. Good.
Yeah.
I just want to add that I would appreciate the opportunity to confer with staff to put this in the queue of things that they're working on currently, and we'll then schedule that with the board workshop.
I was trying to minimize staff work on that, Dr. Mullins, by assigning your board members who are looking for a creative solution to
I
reach out and
appreciate
find
it.
some
We'll take
creative
all of the-
solutions.
all of the assistance we can get.
He's extremely concerned of what we would come up with, is what it is. And he wants to. Can I say to just reach out to Charlie Crawford, who's the head of the association? Lacrosse. I have his
Who
contact.
is going to, that's what I was trying to get at with reaching out to the lacrosse. Should we ask, no?
Charlie, I mean,
No,
he's
Mr. Maharis, thank you. I was going to go through, used to be an AP at Hoover. I was going to give the whole, like, describe him, sounds like Mr.
Sure he
Maharis.
appreciates that, Ms. Deskovich.
Is that appropriate for Mr. Susan? That's what I'm asking, or should we maybe ask Mr. Maharis if he'd be willing to make that
Maharis
connection?
knows Charlie. They can work real well together.
And perhaps if the lacrosse board hears of the struggles that we are facing, they will just reach out and try to provide a solution as well.
Okay.
I will follow up with staff.
Thank you, Dr.
Somehow it
Mullins.
got back to staff again.
Do you have a superintendent's report this evening?
Yes, I do.
The floor is yours, sir.
So I wanted to provide the board and listening audience just an update on some recent and upcoming recruitment efforts particularly for teachers. Wanted to do a shout out and appreciation to Ms. Skipper, Vice President of BFT. She attended along with Mike Alba the Ed Night Talk over at UCF, where they met with over 40 students in various grade levels to make connections with them prior to them choosing their internship, their senior internship, going into future semesters, and really made that connection with them, and followed up with participants by thanking them for attending and asking if they had any questions to please follow up with us. And so that is one UCF connection. Barbara Davis and Bridget Reed attended the UCF Career Fair last week. They issued 6 pre-contract binders to prospective teachers that are available in January. So we've got some great opportunities there. Coming up in a couple days, we have an instructional assistant informational meeting where we will be, professional learning development, Mr. Alba and his team will be presenting with Eastern Florida and UCF opportunities for instructional assistants to earn a bachelor's degree and continue their working arrangement with us. So that is coming up on the 21st in a couple days, and it'll include financial aid options and those types of things, providing a real concerted pathway from being an instructional assistant into becoming a classroom teacher. Very interested to see how this new strategy works. Educational technology, government community relations, and professional learning and development came together and said, how can we reach out to candidates outside of Florida in a less costly way than going out of state physically? And so they're creating a trial webinar where we publish a webinar opportunity for prospective candidates to learn about Brevard Public Schools and the opportunities that we have available here. And the webinar is going to be advertised through Frontline Education, which is kind of a current headhunter site utilized by recruitment and retention to get out there into new markets. In addition, we sent pre-contract binders to all of our principals that are hosting a senior intern this semester. We have 30 interns right now in our schools, and principals are evaluating those and giving interns the opportunity to stay with us next semester. And lastly, you know that Dr. Thede presented a substitute study or evaluation to the board a couple workshops ago, and her team is continuing to evaluate the recommendations or options that were shared then, and we'll be bringing back a recommendation here in the next few weeks. But also, they, professional learning development went out to provide an overview of how to be a sub most recently, or actually, this is happening tomorrow, to the League of Women Voters. So we are really kind of doing an all-court press to look at new opportunities. Appreciate Vanessa and BFT working with us in that effort as well. And we are shaking the bushes, so.
You know, what would really be good is a picture when the first really, like right now when it's freezing up there. Send a picture from Delora Middle School of the beach and just say, you could teach here. Maybe we go away real good too. And then I wanted to also say that the EDC, okay, relax, it's okay. The EDC has an amazing website that they've worked out that taps into every one of our organizations to attract talent, and it's not specific to manufacturing, so I'll get you that link.
Any additional board member comments on Dr. Mullins' superintendent report? Thank you, Dr. Mullins, and your team for all of the efforts on all of those multifaceted initiatives. We appreciate it immensely. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.